My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. That's stalking by Ontario International Airport. They're stalking to be in alignment to where I'm at F Street in Euclid, engaging criminal summoning with American Medical Response at 7:06 a.m. Southwest Airlines gang stalking 2 minutes earlier before that. This is the entity that's engaging what is making a U-turn and going back the opposite direction. This has nothing to do with any arrivals and departures, okay? I've already documented this stalking. Graffiti Patrol is engaging in light activity. That's what American Medical Response is doing at 7:06 a.m. where the entity is engaged in what is stalking using commercial planes. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is where they're coming all the way up to what is F Street, going north up the street as I do. There's no planes that are flying from the airport miles away to head in this direction, flying over G Street, flying over, like I've documented, flying over this intersection, flying over this storefront. That's the airport stalking, and this is light activity as the demon possessor engage in it. And what the entity is typically doing is having the fake sun in perfect alignment with me. This is the light activity with regard to the entity covering up the fake sun. This is light activity, peculiarized light. This is P.O.C. That's Ontario International Airport at what is 7:14 a.m. gang stalking in concert with the people of the state. Graffiti Patrol is a gang stalker. They're engaged in the entity that is stalking by flying over, getting in alignment to me, and then making a U-turn going back in the opposite direction. The entity is monitoring me while I am packing up my property over here. The entity is engaged in ongoing patrol and using commercial planes, those which are not published on the Ontario International website. That is engaged in terrorism. P.O.C. Here you go. This is ongoing stalking by commercial planes flying down Euclid Avenue. Stalking with the people of the state. That's license 8CO7375. And the entity is gang stalking by maintaining this plane activity in relevant position. This is, again, clearly just monitoring, maintaining aerial surveillance in alignment to where I'm at. This is the entity that's engaging what is flying west over Euclid Avenue as though they're taking off. And when I am at what is F Street, they're maintaining what is U-turns over the street. This is not trash emptying. This is maintenance of presence in the path light activity. And it's the same with graffiti patrol. And it is, again, 7:16 a.m. This is, you're looking at the frequency, you're looking at where they are with the planes, you're looking at also what they're doing, engaging what is U-turns. That's P.O.C. And that's audible activity of gang stalking. That's priority. They're gang stalking. I already documented them gang stalking. They're monitoring. That's P.O.C. with the airport. That's not engaged in any landings. They're stalking together. That's monitoring together. All right, license plate of priority. Priority is a third party monitoring with 8CO7375 monitoring with the City of Ontario, P.O.C. And here's the entity. It is, again, proceeding west, 7:20 a.m. as I am walking south, now engaging what is flights west. There's no hovering over from the airport. Southwest Airlines, Ryder. The same pattern of light activity. Graffiti patrol, priority, stalk with light activity as I am in the path. This is Starbucks. You already know they're gang stalking, fake sun for 12 hours. This is light activity. And Ryder is a specific third party documented engaging in violence that is documented as before. Practice, when you look at the pattern of conduct, you're going to prosecute them for even the third parties that they act with. License plate. There's no takeoff over here. So you're also hovering at 226 Vine Avenue as well, where I'm located. We're headed towards Stater Brothers. This is Southwest Airlines. That is indeed gang stalking. Indiana plate 2908369. And Ryder is a third party, and the demon operating this vehicle, engaging the pattern of conduct with the City of Ontario, is also a third party. And so is Starbucks. That is gang stalking. That's engaging gang stalking with the business, with the people of the state that you know are stalking with impossible light inside of the Starbucks. The entity keeping the fake sun. This is all of that P.O.C. And this is the entity acting with the airport that's engaged in terrorism, stalking. That's why they're engaging what is flight beyond this Starbucks while I'm at F Street, making a U-turn and flying back in the opposite direction. And as I come to E Street, maintaining hovering over the intersection. This is all light activity while demons are using their vehicles. License 88335. This is the federal RICO case against Starbucks. This is P.O.C. That's P.O.C. 7KKN128-02173P3. These are the demons doing so under the fake sun that's both rising here. And remember, that airport is gang stalking at 6:45 p.m. when I'm at this same intersection coming out of Chevron. After 7 p.m. when I'm at the Starbucks, and the fake sun is aimed through the drive-through window of the Starbucks. At 6:33 in the morning, where Corey Watson is gang stalking inside of the Starbucks, and the demons are opening and closing the door, and impossible light is sweeping through. This is the entity that's surrounding the perimeter with light activity. Graffiti patrol, priority, emptying the trash as I'm there, and the airport is engaging what is making U-turns, flying over, which is in an arrival or departure, nor is what Southwest Airlines is doing. They're maintaining ongoing aerial surveillance, pacing amongst light activity surrounding in the perimeter. And this is demonic. This is surveillance, however, you're going to prosecute. It's Title 18 federal stalking. This is corruption, it's mental illness. But the corrupt businesses are going to be prosecuted because it's not just Starbucks. They're all monitoring. They're keeping light activity and relevant positioning, aerial surveillance around me as I'm moving. But everybody, all the business, the entire city is monitoring, and so is the Ontario Police Department. P.O.C. It is 7:22 a.m. All right, the video documentation you are listening to is combined with the podcast documentation capturing the people of the state that are stalking collectively while the government is engaged in what is stalking and maintaining the elements of monitoring in concert with the people, because as they use their vehicles, as they're present in what is an engineered environment, they are maintaining the elements, and the government is maintaining things like the plane activity, using instrumentalities regarding interstate commerce, but also maintaining what is a larger means, a more impactful means of the elements of monitoring, such as using the municipality vehicles with light activity, using the dumpster trucks, using the planes, using the commercial vehicles. This is the third party and the state conduct together, and I'm documenting the people of the state that are stalking, monitoring, engaging in terrorism as a demon-possessed population engaged in that very absurd conduct for no legitimate purpose as well. On behalf of the state, it's all state action, but for example, Ryder, that is a state actor, is going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally for stalking with the government, okay? But Ryder is exploiting the Constitution by presenting itself as a private company, and it's not. It's not when engaged in the government's pattern of conduct of monitoring, which is what it's doing at Starbucks when you're listening to the video on my podcast. License 5 UCR 830. The entity is maintaining light activity as I am walking down the street, coming from F Street and Euclid. That's 537 North Euclid Avenue, where the Ontario International Airport. We're maintaining flights west over Euclid Avenue and then maintaining a U-turn to keep in alignment with me. That's pacing. That's psychopathic, and it's also demonic. It's relevant to what is stalking in the path. This is what group stalking is, and you understand the purpose of group stalking when you see the fake sun that moves in alignment to me as I move. When I'm on the bus, when I'm in my vehicle, you look at that documentation. When I walk, when I move, and that fake sun moves over me. It doesn't move over everybody else. It moves over me when I'm stationary, and I mean that. Even when I'm moving and the fake sun is moving, it's not moving over everyone else. When I stop and everyone else keeps going, the fake sun stops. It is moving specifically over me. I am the one, the individual who is in fact being targeted amongst demons that are in that environment, and they are intentionally and knowingly targeting you as well. This is speaking to mental illness while a demon-possessed population is being shown to engage in all the ways in which they're engaging in targeting another person, and that was never supposed to be exposed. So it's exposing their mental illness and their criminal activity, at their sexual perversion. It's also exposing how that system operates. And it's a template for any other state with regard to the federal government's ability to investigate and prosecute. 9G XZ646 7TLD 884, the Ontario Veterinary Clinic at 215 East Street, I believe, and also or 210 East Street. I'm going to publish the correct address. It's already in the podcast description, but it's right here, the Chevron, and I captured the fake sun as I walk out of the Chevron. The fake sun's covered up as I walk into the Chevron. I captured the fake sun at an earlier hour, 7:28 a.m., 7:10 a.m. yesterday. And what is it based on? What I'm doing. Yesterday at 7:10 a.m., I was already uploading evidence on the internet, so the fake sun starts shining. Just like yesterday evening at the same street, Euclid Avenue, where I'm on, again, I am north of the Ontario Town Square where I was yesterday evening, where the entity kept the fake sun until sunset. And as I'm documenting the Ontario Police, who provide a wealth of evidence that they're stalking, and they do so with regard to showing how everybody else is stalking with that agency, including license plate 7VCC474. I mean, you're not forgetful that the Ontario Police is engaged in what is stalking at 5:07 and 5:28, 5 p.m. by helicopter, as I am referring to them in text, which is on my device, which is under surveillance at the Ontario Town Square. And as the entity is engaged in what is stalking me by helicopter, and I'm engaged in documenting it, uploading it, the entity is covering up the fake sun, and then it starts shining, and this is after 5 p.m. This is the same pattern of conduct. The environment is not a natural one. The environment is serving for monitoring me, and it is based on what I do as I do it. Covering up the fake sun and showing the fake sun is literally based on me, what's happening, how it serves the criminal purposes of psychological torture and terrorism by the demon possessed, and it's a demonic environment. And this is reality regarding everything that's happening, including criminal presence, and that's exactly how you're going to be prosecuted where you live, and the entity is engaging in surveillance through you where you live, which they are intentionally and doing so, and I've also shown that as a pattern of conduct. Plane and helicopter over your home with the fake sun and engineer light. 8HGH 480, and they're going to be prosecuted, and they're subject to raids as the federal government is aware of criminal surveillance amongst the states. The federal government is aware of monitoring amongst the states because the federal government's engaged in monitoring. This is what I'm prosecuting. So those that are learning, if you will, are learning the legal implications regarding what is no longer a secret and maintained as a conspiracy theory in order to keep a level of secrecy. 7TLD884, they're monitoring with the demons that you'll see in images around the parking lot. The City of Ontario is stalking with light activity. In the same way that the Ontario International Airport is stalking. 7NBS390 is turning where the housing authority for San Bernardino County is on Lemon Avenue, and that's now where they're maintaining plane activity, and they're doing so over the Starbucks where I'm north of this location. They're doing so over the UNICARE and over the storefronts off of Euclid Avenue while I'm that north of that location. This is clear stalking as the entity migrates south as I go south, and so does the light activity. That's the City of Ontario. I'm capturing it right now in images. They're stalking with methods of light activity. This is what American Medical Response is doing. As I capture that, this is what Graffiti Patrol is doing. This is what Ryder is doing. This is what Priority is doing. They're stalking with light activity. And then the fake sun starts shining at 7:28 a.m. as I arrive south at the intersection of E Street and Euclid, where planes are not any longer flying north of me because I am no longer at that intersection, or rather north of it. Now they're flying south of that intersection because I am south of it, flying over the parking lot of over the intersection where that would be D Street and Euclid. And that's what I just captured in images. Everybody is stalking, including the San Bernardino County Housing Authority, where I've documented the entity hovering over this housing authority while I'm at Chevron as though they're taking off, while I'm at Starbucks and they're taking off right here over the San Bernardino County Housing Authority, which is a gang stalker, a state facilitating venue, the government that's engaged in monitoring. Just like the DMV, just like the San Bernardino TAD office, okay? Just like the entity that is gang stalking with it, which is another function of the government's engaged in gang stalking at every government office. 8TJA082. Light Country Cut Barbers, the San Bernardino County Housing Authority. License 7JLZ748, crossing path on the street to maintain surveillance. They're cutting my path off. They're doing so in an engineered environment on behalf of the demons that are maintaining aerial surveillance and light activity. 9JQX766. As the entity is engaging in surveillance, it's evidence and prosecution of those that are already sitting in their office at work, enjoying their coffee, they're gang stalking, and everybody else that's engaged in the pattern of conduct is supposing you can, with regard to the people of the state, you don't have to, but I'm prosecuting. Walk through the parking lot and document everybody because they're engaged in the pattern of conduct. They don't have to come out of their office. They're maintaining surveillance by communication devices. 96829Y3, stalking by coming down the alley. This is what they're doing at nightfall when I'm at 415 North Euclid Avenue, stalking like demons with light in perfect alignment to where I'm seated. And this is also where the fake sun is rising as I'm at 415 North Euclid Avenue. That's the hometown barber shop. The demons that are targeting with the Ontario police, removing the bench that I was sleeping on when those demons engaging in what is referring to an irrelevant section while they're engaged in gang stalking. Whether it was relevant or not, actually the entities engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. And this is a demon that's stalking with light activity, 7KWA208. She's stalking with light. So is 4RVD980, 8DWM034. And this is what these demons are doing at nightfall, where the Ontario police are stalking by helicopter, where the Ontario International Airport is stalking, and a demon is in perfect alignment with where I'm positioned at 415 North Euclid Avenue. I'll take a picture of it so you can see what their objective is, stalking with light. And this is what they're doing when I'm at the bench. I'll zoom in because that's where 415 North Euclid Avenue is, and at nightfall, these demons are engaging in terrorism and psychological torture, stalking with light activity. Light activity that's not going to be touching my breasts, okay? From that distance, it's not going to blind my face. It's not going to touch the curb or the sidewalk. Those are demons that are psychopaths stalking with light, and they're doing so with, during the daytime. They're doing so stalking in my path. They're doing so with the entity that's hovering over the parking lot, moving progressively south as I move south. 7NBS390, 8YNS081, 7K60318, 8WLR798. These are all demons that are gang stalking by place of residence, and the entire entity is exposed to what is being rated by the federal government regarding terrorism, regarding immigration. All right, deportation. You have grounds to prosecute and deport terrorists because the entire city of Ontario, as the Ontario International Airport is demonstrating, is engaging in criminal activity with all of the immigrants in the city of Ontario. The entire immigrant population is on the wrong side of the law. They're engaging in gang
violence. This is terrorism, and it's committed in furtherance of murder. It's in violation of federal stalking statute 22618 subsections 1 and 2, and it is a substantial basis for raiding the immigrant population for criminal activity that they are engaging in with the government systematically in order to target an American citizen, and they are also doing so with impunity, just like the Ontario International Airport is engaging in. Understand that that's impunity shared, borne by that entity, including the immigrants. Fully exposed to raids, fully exposed to raids for deportation because of the terrorism that they're engaging in, as the population, as the police department shows, as American Medical Response, the Ontario Fire Department, corrupt companies like Ryder, Priority, the entity that's engaging what is terrorizing me, they're monitoring with the immigrants in the city of Ontario. Okay, ICE has full jurisdiction to come into the city of Ontario and not just get the illegals that don't have their papers. You're talking about deporting every single immigrant on the basis of what is unlawful conduct, and it is not just selling drugs, which is a crime. I'm not stating that that's, something that doesn't matter, but I'm stating that this is terrorism, and it's a basis to deport every single last immigrant in the city of Ontario, which is what actually the federal government has the ability to do in the whole state of California. And that's quite a tremendous resolution regarding the economy and jobs, by the way. The entity is engaging in what is P.O.C, crossing path, 8SPJ 969, a demon driving a school bus, 1544489, Ontario, Montclair. You know that there's sex offenders. I already documented them. License 6 UAV 757, 9DTM 924, lining up at the intersection to gang stalk. This is light activity. This is what they do concerning my vagina. 8WNK 849. Everybody wants to be around when I'm nude. Everybody wants to be around, pacing around over the building and around the building while the fake sun and the engineer light shooting. These are the sex offenders monitoring my vagina. Having access to kids as well. Gang stalking with their family. 9ULG 293. While the famous vagina is exposed in the bathroom. 8XSF 498. These are predators. 8LDV 751. And these are the demons that are conspiring. Homosexual as well. 35737 in 1. Living their lives like they're heterosexual women and they're homosexual. They're homosexual women and they're predators at that. 8AKL 940. And the entire population of immigrants are documented with regard to that same level of impunity. Okay? That's P.O.C. That's the entity where there are no flights that are coming from the airport. This is the city of Ontario with the line of demons. 1564986, city of Ontario. You hear that plane activity? That's not coming from a takeoff from the airport. 8DFC 485. 8VQH 360, stalking together, and so are the immigrants, okay? I've already reported the City of Ontario, the police department monitoring with immigrants, so is the airport. It's reporting what are the immigrant population, and you're also you can prosecute the people of the state, but you can deport all the immigrants. 7GAB 288, 7PPX 219, 8GBL 119, 8RQS 114, and this is at this is at Lemon Avenue and what is this? D Street. P.O.C. license 9TDF466, and the entity is stalking by plane now over the downtown Ontario luxury apartments as I am at that location. So I'm going to show you this line of demons and what is surveillance, not traffic, where the entity is flying over the apartment building to maintain monitoring elements together. 9MOF 754. The City of Ontario maintaining that pattern of conduct together in the municipality vehicles and the planes. License 6FGE 607, and this is the entity that's engaging in what is coming around to this intersection to cross path to keep me surrounded. License I.HEART-BOGTA 9CDJ 349, 9FBD 406. Again, that's 9FBD 406, and this is the same thing that they're doing when the entity enters into the restroom as sex offenders. This is giving you an image of the sexual violence. 9HGM 501 as the obsessive and sexually perverted pattern of conduct. 8DSX 254. 8AAC 774, and it is 8:11 a.m. where the plane is taking off right here at the Ontario Downtown Luxury Apartments. License plate 8WWL 269, and that is again distinct from what is the illegitimate use of the criminal use of a what's supposed to be an airport, the Ontario International Airport's engaged in terrorism. And that's relevant to the entity engaging what is targeting the area where I'm located, following as I move around in the city, and also doing so outside of what they also have a disdain for publishing. Okay, license plate, and that's because they know that I'm referring to it. 9 NIC 185. This line of traffic is surveillance, and this is relevant to knowledge of where I'm located, what I'm doing, and also what I'm stating. And the entity is acting in concert together, and you need to understand that this is also what they do concerning my genitalia. That same knowledge, that same concern, that same ongoing intent to make sure that that's what they do concerning my genitalia, and that's the entity entering into the restroom to stalk in a bathroom. And that is, again, a heightened level regarding national security concern. Predators that are engaged in what are serial killings, targeting American citizens, stealing from them. This is the same entity that, again, this line of demons, they're not strangers, they're stalking specifically Erica Lorraine Spencer, whom they've taken out PPP loans on, and I've never met the people of the state that are gang stalking. They're doing so on behalf of an entity, and the entity is acting and targeting together, just like they are as you are witnessing the airport, targeting with the people of the state on the roads and the highways. They have engaged in criminal activity, trying to frame me for that. This is a part of the greater pattern of conduct, and gang stalking is not a distraction. Gang stalking is showing you how that conspiracy amongst the government and the people, that is Tracy Banks, Jason Isaac Fields, the state of California, the corrupt law enforcement agencies, my status as someone who was adopted, essentially kidnapped, and my biological parent or parents, and their demise, which the entity wants to conceal while stealing my property and then targeting me to do away with me, but also targeting, which they want to serve as a distraction, 9JTM 677, as a distraction as I'm exposing it. And my exposure of gang stalking is not a distraction. It is serving to expose murder that this government, this entity committed in order to steal my money and property. This is information and criminal activity that Jason Isaac Fields aided in. He aided in furtherance to both protect himself, because he's a criminal and he helped a criminal. He's a pedophile. He's engaged in helping and aiding pedophilia. He's engaged in what is aiding the conspiracy to murder me, targeting me, lying on my character, being incompetent professionally, and he's also mentally incompetent with regard to license plate 71549M2, and he's also personally incompetent with regard to his engagement in this criminal pattern of conduct, in this targeting as a psychopath, sharing that same condition. And he is representing what is the federal government that's been targeting me even before Jason Isaac Fields, who's literally just somebody that was disqualified at the outset. He never should have been in the federal government. He only was to target me. 1438317. That's why it was so easy for him to be a part of the pattern of conduct and used in order to essentially gain what is the ability to target me and also to conceal what it is that I've been subject to. This is a demon. This is a corrupt state actor whose criminal activity is relevant to their condition. I'm letting you know, in other words, what's the cause? The cause is that they're demon possessed. All right, but the demon possessed, they're making under the law. It's not a defense, and it's also not relevant. You're not going to be talking about the fact that they're demon possessed when they're making decisions of their own volition, because that's what they are doing, and it's not a defense. But it is relevant to the mind state. It is relevant to the demented behavior that poses a threat to themselves and other people. And the demon possessed are engaged in what is a targeting system in the U.S., and they engage in what is corrupt conduct as a gang that have that same condition in that specific environment. And that behavioral pattern occurring in that specific environment. And this demon was able to steal an opportunity that he is incompetent, disqualified from, and he also gained it only to be used to target me. And this is somebody that's been engaged in targeting me for years, even before he joined the federal law enforcement, I suppose. But this is, I want to make sure that I underscore that the entity that's targeting me is doing so, and this is an entity that's not targeting as a bunch of strangers. All right, they're engaged in surveillance in the same way that they're stalking by planes as I walk south down the street and by traffic as I walk south down the street. They're already in position, gang stalking in position at the Ontario Town Square to maintain surveillance. This is stalking at the square where the fake sun is rising and setting. These are all the relevant facts regarding the entity that's relying on the people of the state who, again, take out PP loans on not someone that's a stranger to them. They take out PP loans on people that they know who are a part of that the entity is targeting. And this is surveillance, not constitutionally protected free speech, and it's also not coincidental, and it's also not ignorant. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and doing so in the specific environment, and they're doing so while the entity maintains plain activity now over the square, maintains the fake sun now over the square, where I'm at, the Ontario Town Square, and traffic, which is surveillance centered around where I'm located, okay? And that is relevant to where the fake sun is setting, where Elvira is stalking by standing on a stage on a microphone singing a song after 6 p.m. and the fake sun is here in the morning right now. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in what is public corruption. All right, so I just want to make sure that that is understood. This is an entity that is engaging in what is, on the one hand, you could state that it is, it's not a distraction. That's not an adequate way to put it at all, because American citizens are being terrorized, and you need to know that there's no anonymity, there's no privacy. This surveillance is real, surveillance is underway, and amongst surveillance, like the city of Ontario is engaging in, that's a demon that's monitoring, that knows what I'm stating. Okay, that's the entity that's engaging in what is monitoring. This is surveillance, and the entity is doing so in a specific environment. That's how you know the connection between what I'm hearing right now. You're, oh, she just heard an engine, and no, that's audible activity in the engineered light, and they are engaging in what is engaging in activity creation with simultaneity to whatever it is that they're triggered by. So when I call them pedophiles, and that's what they are, the entity is engaging in what is helicopter activity. The entity is engaged in plane activity. The entity is engaged in what is amplified traffic all of a sudden. It's on a microphone. It's not even a natural volume level. The entity is engaged in what is piercing through any and everything, no matter how far the distance, with any matter of noise. Okay, the entity is maintaining quote-unquote plane activity, which could be described literally as like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, like a dinosaur roaring, when there's no plane in the sky. Okay, it has nothing to do with the planes that you see. This is essentially a cartoon environment where the demon-possessed are maintaining presence in an environment that's totally demonic, meaning the environment around you, you're in the spiritual realm. Okay, and the spiritual realm wants to, as much as it can, while you are ignorant, it is able to do that, wants to maintain ongoing subconscious explanations for what you're seeing and what you're hearing, what you're perceiving, and you're never going to question it. You see the sun, you don't even look up at the sun, but you're automatically assuming subconsciously in your mind that sunlight is all over everything because that's the sun. But you're not paying attention to, first of all, the object itself. You're not paying attention to that. It doesn't go anywhere. It remains over you all day long. And then you're talking about people like me who are pointing out there's only one sun, and that exclusive star does not sit beside buildings. It also doesn't shoot like a laser sunlight. It doesn't create multiple shadows, and it doesn't sit idle over one address all day long, even going from one side of that address to the opposite side of the same address. That's not the sun. And it's also mutually exclusive, because where I document that supernatural occurrence, it is relevant. It's context to what you're surrounded by, because there's only one. That's an exclusive star. In that environment, surveillance is underway by demons who are requiring need for you to never question that environment. And not only that, where you are also questioning it, you're looking at the behavior, the immediately suspect conduct of what is the behavior of the airport, what is the behavior of the police department and the fire departments that are also engaged in what is not only the conduct of the elements of monitoring, as I've shown you, as I've documented, but they also do so pursuant to what I do as I do it. And what am I doing? What I'm doing is legally relevant. I'm not just living my life and minding my business and exercising my constitutional rights, which remain intact regardless of the entity that has forfeited its constitutional rights. You're not exercising constitutional rights by the state that's targeting, and you are part of that entity, but mine remain intact. But it's also legally relevant, but I happen to be engaged in an investigation. I happen to be engaged in documentation. It's legally relevant. So they're not just engaged in what is monitoring. They're engaged in what is monitoring and obstructing justice in doing so with knowledge. In fact, they engage in more violence. That's what the Ontario Police is doing by helicopter while I document California Highway Patrol. That's what the entity is doing by helicopter when I'm documenting Jason Isaac Fields and the airport gang stalking me, as I uploaded on podcast yesterday evening. That's what the Ontario Police Department is doing when I refer to the fact that they're pedophiles and they fly in circles over the top of my head at this same address after 6 p.m. where I'm documenting the fake sun at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. where the son would not be at the same location. Not only are you clearly looking at what the police department is doing to an American citizen, why are you flying in circles over an American citizen? They're doing it while a son did not go anywhere. You're paying attention to that entire environment. They're also engaged in what is conduct by the airport, by the water department, by the Starbucks, by the shopping mall in the city, by the grocery store, by the county building, okay, by the entity that's engaged in what is the neighborhood, the housing subdivisions, and the apartment complexes, the public transportation, because they're all sharing in that pattern of conduct. And it is surveillance. Surveillance that is happening and occurring via devices as well. Merely use of their devices is facilitating surveillance. This is why I'm showing you the demons studying their devices everywhere that they're going. When they're following me as psychopaths, not looking, not addressing, because they're supposed to be maintaining, and it's an unpersuasive one. Under the fake sun, you're not looking at me, you're clearly stalking, and they're shown and they're looking like stalkers. Now you're just looking at stalkers that are just staring at their phones and keeping their back to me. That's getting to what is creepy, scary movie conduct. Okay, these are the living dead who are caught, and their obsession is caught. Their addiction to stalking me is caught. Their sexual perversion and their mental illness is caught, because they are clearly stalking under all circumstances when they're merely stalking and staring at their phone, stalking and keeping their back to me, stalking while maintaining light activity, stalking while wearing a uniform as though you're on the job and doing anything else but stalking. That employer is a stalker, and that employee of that third-party company is a stalker. That's Securitas at Ontario Town Square. Okay, the fruit basket that's engaging in what is criminal summoning with the Ontario Police Department at 5 o'clock in the morning. The same Ontario police that are flying in circles over my head, harassing me and terrorizing me at this same Ontario Town Square. That's the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct together. Securitas, the security guard, is engaged in criminal monitoring, and he's a paid employee to engage in surveillance with the city of Ontario, not a private third-party company. And Securitas, by the way, is engaged in what is gang stalking as a third-party company that's outside of the United States as well. And that's relevant to businesses that are keeping American citizens under surveillance. All right, but then again, we've been betrayed by our own United States government that's keeping American citizens under surveillance, so they may or may not even have a policy to enforce our rights against foreign companies keeping American citizens under surveillance through a gang-stalking, corrupt government like the state of California, like the city of Ontario. However, there's an issue there. There's an issue there. Foreign companies in the U.S. keeping American citizens under surveillance and invading our privacy. And then you're talking about when they have privacy spillages, if you will, where there's an accidental exposure of your social security number to, for example, Target, even though Target's not an international, but I'm giving you an example where they talk about, oh, we had an oversight. We need to let you know about your information that was accidentally or potentially exposed, and we didn't know anything about it, or we're investigating as that they're lying to you. They are lying to you. Okay, we are all under surveillance. Your social security number has been exposed. The demon possessed, they're engaged in monitoring every payment, every interaction that I have on my phone, every transaction that I conduct. The sex offenders of the Ontario Police, the sex offenders monitoring my vagina, the demons that are under the age of 18, they're all engaged in what is knowledge of my private information, knowing what I'm doing, knowing what website, knowing what it is that I'm purchasing, knowing what hotel room that I have reserved, knowing how much money I paid for it, knowing the moment in time when I'm selecting that on my phone screen. That's the level of surveillance that you're subject to. And the police are being disbanded for that unlawful and inhumane violation of privacy. Because it's not that just that gang stalking so-called police officer. That's an oxymoron that I don't even like to state, because there's no such thing as a gang stalking police officer. That's not a police officer by definition. It's not. Okay, but for purposes of using words and conveying ideas so that you understand what I'm stating, what I'm trying to communicate, I use that, but that is an oxymoron that is entirely absurd. And that's a terrorist, not a police officer. And terrorists that are wearing police uniforms are going to prison. Okay, but nonetheless, the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct, and it's an inhumane level of a violation of privacy. The same thing with your genitalia, the same thing with your children. Okay, and I'm not talking to the demons that sacrifice their kids. They sexually violate their own kids and other people's kids, or they're willing to have other people's children. They're pedophiles, okay, in every regard. I'm talking to those that are like me, that are subject to the system, that are ignorantly subject to the system. Whether you're aware of the fact that you may be targeted or not, you may not be targeted. You're under surveillance, but you may not be targeted per se because you're not a threat. Okay? But the entity, meaning you're not aware of it and you're not somebody that is perceived as someone that would do anything about it, that they cannot one way or another entice or even force to engage in the same conduct. You're not a threat as long as you are unaware and or a part of it and not, exposing anything. You're not a threat. I wasn't aware of it, but I am a threat based on what the entity knows about me. And the entity knows who you are. Remember, the entity is demonic. It's Satan that knows who you are spiritually, knows what spiritual gifts you are, has an idea, rather, because they don't know everything. As demonic as they are, as much as they are studying you, as much as they are perverts engaging in voyeurism, and even obsessing and studying your genitalia and studying everything about you, understand that they are engaged in what is limited knowledge regarding what God is going to reveal about them. But that is what also is inspiring stalking. This is why they're doing that, because of that obsession with you. The obsession speaking to what is exceeding what they are, what their abilities are. And I mean, meaning somebody that is not intended or not gratified or not interested in stalking somebody else and concerned with somebody else and what somebody else's life path is going to be and what their purpose is, and trying to interfere with that, and trying to not only interfere with it, I want to steal their skin and walk in their skin and have their pores and their follicles and their nail beds, and I want to have their tone of voice, and I want to have their brain cells and their intellect. This is the level of obsession that the demon possessed are after. Tracy Banks was never going to be me, and by the way, the entity is mentally ill, because that's literally their desire. This is why the City of Ontario is stalking. Understand, the City of Ontario is under the false impression that they're going to attain wealth and success as an entity, as a municipality, by stalking a Christ follower like myself, stalking somebody with the ability to spiritually discern dark spirits like them. They are engaging in what is gang stalking me and monitoring, which is spiritually significant. That's a demon flying a commercial plane that is monitoring as audible activity and crossing paths, and it's literally witchcraft. In the physical, you're prosecuting what is stalking, following from place to place in an identifiable manner. That's an airline. That's Delta Airlines, for example, associating the criminal conduct with the actor and their pattern of conduct as you're documenting and physically. But they're doing it in the specific environment where all of the noise is amplified in volume, where the noise occurs with simultaneity to what I do, where the light activity is flying in the air, and it is also vacillating in real time based on whatever it is that I do. The light activity can increase or decrease based on whatever it is that it's happening. If they want to make it more discreet while the entity begins flight stalking by helicopter, then that's what will happen. The entity, when it's engaged in what is conduct, wanting to be a distraction about murder that they don't want to discuss, then they'll have the fake sun shining in all of its brilliance and light activity flying all over the place, while the entity engages in the same thing, stalking by helicopter, because the entity is failing and thinking that there's some sort of distraction. They are both exposing the fact that surveillance and terrorism is underway and the purpose of it, because this entity is also a serial killer committing murders, murdering those that are surrounding me that would be a threat to them attaining my wealth, my property, and those that were harmed in concealing my identity and doing so, keeping that concealed by murdering other people around me. And that's what the state has engaged in. And this is what the City of Ontario is gang stalking for, outside of what is a surveillance system that exists in the first place. The entity surmised that we'll gang stalk her, which is going to be the exposure of gang stalking surveillance, and that was supposed to be a distraction, like I spoke at length about yesterday. That's supposed to be a distraction, a deterrence from ever getting to the topic of what the Ontario International Airport is targeting for in the first place, because murders have already occurred, theft of my property already occurred, and why the entity isn't trying to get engage in what is killing me off, which is silencing me, trying to discard me by gang stalking, which is not only is it not defaming me, in some way, like stalking somebody else. These demons are sitting around in Ontario Town Square stalking another person, stalking a woman at that. And then they go home or wherever they live around other females as though they're not a threat to the female race. And those females are also, again, living a whole fake lifestyle. They're homosexuals obsessed with another woman's vagina, my vagina. While they present themselves as heterosexual, these are the demon-possessed population. Their whole existence is fake. As fake as that fake sun that sits over me while they're all stalking me together. They are serial killers that are targeting people in the way that I'm showing you that they're targeting me. And the entity decided to target when I am exposing, potentially a threat to exposing what has happened to people that were in my life, that were a part of my life that I was never told about, i.e. being adopted, i.e. being one that inherited wealth, i.e. being one that was stolen from, that wealth stolen from me. And this is relevant to why the City of Ontario is also targeting as demons, and also literally interest in what is a stake in money and property that belongs to me. Okay, money and property that Tracy Banks has had her claws on since I was a child, and she has no business having any exercise of authority over it. She's a low-life, welfare-accepting criminal, okay? She's a common thief who is engaged in what is irresponsible expenditures, criminal expenditures of my money, including on other people, on other, she spends money on prostitutes, she spends money on trying to impress people, on recruiting demons to gang stalk me, and this is my money that was given to me for a purpose, while I'm, by the way, sleeping outside. She's going to prison, and so is her sex partner, Jason Fields, under all circumstances. Under all circumstances, they're going to prison. But even more, you're talking about federal prison for terrorism, federal prison for terrorism with the intent to obstruct justice. The reason why they're gang stalking, one of the many reasons why they're gang stalking, summoning a population of psychopaths to stalk me day and night, and using the resources of a government. You're going to federal prison where you're a part of that. That includes the people of the state that are in my fake family: Eric Spencer, Tracy Banks, Tommy Allen Banks. The entity that's engaged in what is gang stalking as fake family and friends, they also engaged in what is defaming my character as a part of their targeting conduct. And doing so, what is also the relevant angles? The demon possessed that are engaging in surveillance, taking shifts, like they are now, the demon in the plaid and the Asian female that takes her seat while they exchange on an ongoing basis. Demons that are engaging in what is sitting down to engage in surveillance, exchanging faces. Is the same entity under the same exact specific environment. The entity is engaging in this conduct while they are doing so as fake friends. Shanita McLean, Morgan Amanda Smith, Kenneth Anderson, Anthony Jawan Kennedy, Glenn Anthony Williams, DeJuan Williams, all these demons that at one point in time I formally associated with them at different levels of frequency, by the way, so they don't all have the same level of exposure to me, and I don't have the same relationship with all of them, but they were all third parties, all engaged in targeting, and they all sat and perjured themselves, those that participated in defaming my character for this very purpose. It is gang stalking by the state, and they're going to prison for it. The entity summoned a population of demons to engage in taking out loans in my name, engage in criminal activity in my name. They're the same entity of gang stalkers. While the government, as I'm documenting in real time, stalking through public transportation, stalking through the neighborhood, stalking through the Ontario International Airport, the police department, the gang stalking EMTs and ambulances, the gang stalking businesses using their vehicles and their establishments to maintain surveillance in the, as I'm documenting the P.O.C. This is all of that intricate level of the way in which the entity is surrounding in relevant position, keeping you under surveillance with the government, but also doing so with regard to the people of the state that are in your lives and supposed to be providing what is a trustworthy means of providing information about your character, about your flaws, about your insufficiencies, about whatever it is that is wrong with you, while they are testifying in court, and their objective is to steal my money and property that nobody ever told me about. That does not, under any circumstances, make any of it credible or lawful. The entity's doing so while they're gang stalking. That's also legally relevant. And they're also doing so pursuant to what are repeated acts of kidnapping, legally relevant, while they're trying to engage in what is surrounding what is the entity that is engaging in this level of corruption, manufacturing a criminal record, manufacturing mental illness, manufacturing criminal activity by the same gang stalkers, the same entity that are stalking with light under the fake sun. Those are the same ones engaging in criminal conduct, aiding the state that's engaging in what is trying to get away with a grandiose scheme of stealing from me and stealing also my reputation in doing so. This is surveillance. Okay, the entity is doing so with the demons that are stalking day and night by helicopter, because that's exactly what I documented, while the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they're engaging in what is exchanging demons who are sharing in surveillance. And as I identify them taking shifts, they change their mind. This female sits down, and this is what they engage in. They exchange faces while they're maintaining presence. That's what traffic is. They're not going anywhere. They're pacing around me. And you know that because the fake sun doesn't go anywhere. That's why it's still here setting. And while I point that out to you, this male that was going to, they do exchange routes. The demon that is sitting with the orange jacket with the bike that I've documented under the fake sun rising, exchanging with the demon in the red plaid. The female that's sitting here engaging what is presence in the path. They're doing exchanging presence, and that is ongoing pacing. Maintaining foot traffic in the engineer light, maintaining communication devices, engaging in surveillance, while Wells Fargo is engaged in what is surveillance as well. The business and the employees, the patrons that use the Wells Fargo ATM. This is the entity that's engaging in surveillance on a ceaseless basis, where I'm around me, okay? Doing so on behalf of the government that has no warrant or probable cause, and neither does Wells Fargo. Neither can Wells Fargo provide that. And the business of Wells Fargo is engaged in criminal surveillance. That's the federal RICO case. While they're engaged in what is stealing from me, stealing my identity, including my my status as someone that was adopted, born into wealth, the entity trying to steal that. And I also want to be clear what they're spiritually engaged in. The city of Ontario is obsessed with the fable, because it's not going to happen. The exact opposite is going to happen. The entity that's been stealing from me by monitoring me, by gang stalking me, is losing the police department. They're losing the kidnappers, the terrorists of the fire department. They're losing that airport that's engaging in terrorism. They're losing what are these businesses that are going to be prosecuted. They're not even going to survive a civil prosecution. And they're engaging in this with the under the guise of targeting someone and spiritually attacking them. And this is how the demon-possessed intend to acquire wealth as well. That's relevant to what the entity is doing. But again, the physical evidence of targeting is the elements of the monitoring, which the P.O.C. breaks down. And it's literally evidence of the entity stalking from place to place. And they're doing that in a specific environment. It is a literal code of conduct. The same formula applies. While they're doing it in police vehicles, while they're doing it in helicopters, where they're doing it in commercial planes, where they're doing it in small government planes, where they're doing it by commercial vehicles, while they're doing it in their own vehicles, they're doing it as the third parties and state. They're all state actors, and it's the government engaging in surveillance that the entity is committing in furtherance of to obstruct justice. And also because surveillance, the entity was targeting me since I was a child in the first place. The entity is now doing so, I want to be clear, because of what it is that I'm exposing, and the entity wants to do away with me, intended to do away with me, and that is down to the demons that are gang stalking at the Ontario Town Square, targeting and keeping me under heavy surveillance based on what it is that the entity doesn't want discussed. And gang stalking isn't a distraction. Gang stalking is context. So it's proven, oh yeah, they're definitely targeting her, and it's relevant why they're targeting who I am, but also what the entity has done to me and what the entity has done to those around me in order to continuously do this to me. And the entity has murdered people in order to continue doing this to me. The entity has engaged in what is criminal acts against other people. The entity has engaged in trafficking children like they have done to me, and don't want me to speak out about it. Nobody else is speaking about it. So understand how this is a threat, how I pose a threat on multiple prongs. Okay, but I want to be clear. The entity is losing. The city of Ontario, the airport, the police department, it's not a police department. The fire department, it's not a fire department. Nonetheless, I've exposed it. And you're talking about loss of that. They're not building up any wealth. They're not going to build a reputation as being a city where tourists come. It's not even that's not going to be the case, and that's not happening. The very exact opposite is happening. And the entity's gang stalking about the Ontario police, which is not rebutting the truth of what they're listening to me state. The police department is gone. The airport is gone. The gang stalking fire department is gone. They're engaged in surveillance and furtherance of murder, and they gang stalked as a citywide effort to try to accomplish murder. And that's exactly why that police department is being wiped out. And a large percentage of those gang stalkers are going to prison, because I documented them, and that's exactly where demons like Escobar, gang stalking me, engaging in criminal summoning in 2022. He's going to federal prison. He refreshed his engagement in that in 2025 under the fake sun, which is around the same block, by the way. He's going to prison for also kidnapping in July of 2025. He's going to prison, and so are all his partners. Where they're all going to be used against each other in federal court, where you don't need a consensus about whether you think you should go to prison. That's not how a criminal case goes, and it's also not even relevant because science is prosecuting them. And you don't need any vote. The entity is doing so under a fake sun. That's scientific evidence regarding targeting, and it is an unprecedented basis to expose terrorism and surveillance, and they're going to prison based on science as well. And the entity is engaging in this, in other words, under that fake sun, where a whole state is engaging in this P.O.C. And the entity is doing so with regard to a department that's engaged in surveillance in real time, and more demons are crossing paths in Ontario department vehicles while the fake sun starts shining. So let me go ahead and get that. That's the entity that's doing so. Remember, the entity is gang stalking under the fake sun as I exit the library at 4 o'clock yesterday, where demons are engaging what are exchanging shifts, gang stalking the demon with the dreads, the female, the demon that's gang stalking in the white SUV. I'm taking pictures of it. They're stalking in the past under the fake sun that's at the Ontario Town Square, where it's still present, where Elvira is gang stalking on a microphone at the Route 66, where the fake sun is still present. And you'll see the gang members of the Ontario Police at ARCO in engineer light under a fake sun. Okay, this is the entity that's gang stalking right now, where they're listening to what's going to happen. They already know. They gang stalk because, again, they're delusional with regard to the mental illness. They're delusional because they're stalking by helicopter, and everybody knows that the Ontario Police Department is gang stalking me in particular. They're gang stalking, and they're delusional with regard to what is engaging in more gang stalking Satan doesn't have any authority. Satan is listening to how he's going to be sentenced. And it includes the loss of the airport, the loss of the fire department, the loss of the police department, engaged in what is the conspiracy to commit murder. And they thought that they were going to get away with stealing my money, property, and my identity. And also concealing the fact of what they are, which is in the substance of the P.O.C. documentation, my intellectual property and my evidence to prosecute the domestic terrorists, the state of California. And they are losing all of the above, and they're losing their freedom. Every kidnapper is going to prison, from what is Jonathan Burnett, what is T. Cho to Kessel, all the way up to what is C. Hazelwood in 2025, kidnapping. They're all going to federal prison, okay? The entities engaging in this, and they're doing so with the people of the state in a very specific environment, and science will put them where they belong. Because there's no consensus, I want to be clear, even amongst the jury of your peers, because you're not asking a question as to whether you find beyond a reasonable doubt whether they're guilty of the crime of terrorism with the intent to obstruct justice, etc., because of the specific environment which is relevant to science. So this is there's no question regarding the totality of facts. There's no question regarding the guilt. There's no question regarding the probative value of the evidence. There is no ambiguity, and there's also no mystery. There's no deviating from it. And actually, based on science, it is a conviction that is supported by science. That is even beyond what is beyond a reasonable doubt. Understand that. They're going to prison. Science is securing it. Alex Escobar, that's under the fake sun at the B&G Plaza, that's Holt and Sultana. That's not even a mile away. It's on the opposite side of the Ontario City Hall. That's a gang stalker. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, Alex Escobar is engaged in what is criminal summoning, a federal offense that's putting any gang stalker wearing a police uniform in prison. They're going to prison, and he's under the fake sun at 8 a.m. Guess what is the fake sun? He's under the fake sun at 12:51 p.m. at 333 North Euclid Avenue, the opposite side of the same block. The U.S. Bank, where I'm documenting also the fake sun and fake sunset on Euclid Avenue. The fake sunrise and sunset is on Hope Boulevard. This is what is surrounding Alex Escobar. Science is putting him in prison, okay? There's no jury of peers that's going to interfere with that. That's not relevant to a prosecution in the specific environment. Science is showing that Alex Escobar is targeting, and evidence over a matter of years. In addition to what is the prosecution of the airport, where you're investigating the pilots taking off, that's also speaking to how Alex Escobar is proven to be targeting. Science is putting him in prison. The entity is doing so with the entity that's targeted by a helicopter of that same agency. Science is putting him in prison, because there is no sun that's going to be over the B&G Plaza at Holt Boulevard, at 410 East Holt, and at 333 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity is over stalking with a fake sun as a matter of science, where that sun in a natural environment would be present, and he is present in my path, doing so pursuant to psychological torture and stalking as an agency, which there's a whole body of evidence as to how the city of Ontario is engaging in that, and the people of the state, including every corrupt business, are sharing in that. Stalking with light, stalking under a fake sun, stalking under fake moon at night, stalking with engineer light at nightfall as well, stalking with engineer light inside of the facilitating venues, every business, such as, for example, the light activity you see inside of the OVITT Family Community Library and the bathroom inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. Alex Escobar is surrounded with all of this, including science, where a jury is not going to interfere with what science demands is the outcome of that case, because the sun is not going to be from 8 to 12:51 over a same body of land. And that's not even an extraordinary large body of land. Holt Boulevard and Euclid Avenue intersect. And you're talking about what is not even a mile, if that. And he's under the fake sun gang stalking me. Very specific, at 8 o'clock in the morning and 12:51 in the afternoon, and also 7:15 a.m. at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. 7:15, 12:51, 8:23 a.m., 8:20 a.m. As I'm documenting in January of 2022, and he's engaged in what is wearing a police uniform and doing so under all circumstances. That's public corruption, and he's going to prison. And that is what the entire agency is engaged in, especially when I have the hallmark, thousands of videos of that same agency harassing, just like you are witnessing last night by helicopter. Yesterday morning and yesterday evening at this same venue by helicopter, where the fake sun is remaining, over the Ontario Town Square, as a matter of fact. But Alex Escobar is also going to be prosecuted by what the San Diego Police Department are doing in an entirely different region, speaking to how you know beyond a reasonable doubt and that science supporting that Alex Escobar could not be targeting anybody but myself with regard to the targeting that the city of San Diego is sharing in, and that the city of Bakersfield is sharing in, and that the city of Hesperia is sharing in, and that the city of Rialto and San Bernardino are sharing in because of the exclusivity of that sun, and also the behavioral pattern of that entity that's in that environment that is shown to be targeting me, and they are proven to be targeting me as well. When you are exposing public corruption, Alex Escobar is going to federal prison as a matter of what science dictates, not a jury of his peers. I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's not up for a vote. It's not ambiguous or mysterious. They're going to prison. Every single last one of them. Okay? And I want to be clear, the police department is gone, and so is the airport. It's gone. They're terrorists, and they engaged in this to acquire wealth. And that's exactly how you're going to respond to terrorism. You're not acquiring wealth. You are losing that altogether. The airport's engaged in conspiring by murder and kidnapping and psychological torture. It's gone. It's out. The fire department and the police department. In Ontario in particular, that's what this city's fate is. Specifically based on what it intended to do and how it intended to do it, and the prolonged period that it's been engaged in it. And demons like Alex Escobar are going to be used as a template, a billboard for how you're targeting terrorism and facilitation of terrorism, because Alex Escobar is one of the core reasons why the demons are engaging in surveillance in the bathroom, at the Ontario Town Square, at Woodside Senior Apartments, at Economy Inn, at the Stater Brothers grocery store, on the roads and the highways on the 10 freeway. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:48 a.m. That is Amazon Prime Air. That is gang stalking. I want to be clear, and they're doing so while the fake sun. They're doing so, first of all, at the Ontario Town Square. Remember, they're flying over F Street in Euclid, where Securitas is gang stalking. This is the fruit basket that's engaged in what is criminal summoning with the Ontario Police, and he's also gang stalking with the City of Ontario, and he's also engaged in criminal summoning on 2 separate occasions, documenting him with the kidnapper. She is kidnapping with the Ontario Police June 22nd, 2022. She's going to prison for that, and she's also engaged in criminal summoning with this this fruit basket wearing a Securitas uniform. This is, and I'm referring to him as a fruit basket. That's the nicest epithet that I can come up with. Okay, so I understand that that's not friendly, but neither is gang stalking. Okay, so this is an entity that he's threatening my life, and so is Securitas, and he's crossing path wearing a security uniform. You're gang stalking. The demon possessed think that they can wear a uniform, and that it's something other than stalking, and it's not. You can walk around naked, and guess what it is? It's stalking. So while you wear a uniform identifying a company, that company is gang stalking, and so is that third party wearing that uniform. This is the strip down of what is public corruption, and it's also relevant that that uniform and that third party, which I'm referring to as a fruit basket, engaged in criminal summoning with the Ontario Police Department. The same one that's engaged in terrorizing all day long at the same venue, and also in the same specific environment with the City of Ontario. The airport is gone, the police department is gone, the fire department is gone, and they're engaging in what is years of documented terrorism, and science is putting each one in prison. The gang stalking pilots are also subject to prison. They commit murders, just like I'm showing the Ontario International Airport is engaged in, stalking me, not flying north up Euclid Avenue, not flying over the UNICARE anymore, not flying over the parking lot, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments anymore. Where I'm located, they are flying south of my person, and that's what Amazon Prime Air is engaging in. And even Amazon is documented engaging in terrorism, terrorizing me in Costa Mesa with the Costa Mesa Police, the City of Costa Mesa terrorizing me with the Los Angeles Police Department, the City of Los Angeles, and gang stalking as I'm here in San Bernardino County in Ontario. I've documented Amazon gang stalking and also engaging in the sex offense of molesting with impossible light. The evidence surrounds the people of the state, in other words. And science is putting terrorists like Alex Escobar in prison, and it is beyond a reasonable doubt. Like I said, science is speaking to a level of certainty that ordinary criminal convictions don't have. Okay, it is currently 8:50 a.m. This is P.O.C. and the entity engaging in what is gang stalking by crossing path and police vehicles, and they're being removed from those. That's psychological torture while they're keeping you under surveillance. That's what they're doing by helicopter. That's what I was describing yesterday. While Jason Fields is being documented, Jason Fields is going to prison for the terrorism that the City of Ontario, that the state of California is engaged in. Okay, and his incompetence is not a means of protection. It's a means of actually putting him where he belongs. The federal government has a responsibility not to place incompetent actors that terrorize American citizens and threaten them, and they are then 6 feet under because of the incompetence of a federal official. No, you're going to prison. And I want to be clear, it's not incompetence in fact. It's competence that the entity would even like to suggest that he didn't know this and he didn't know that. That's not true. He did know that he was maintaining a fraudulent marriage to me on paper. He did know that me and him have no relationship whatsoever. He does know that he is never to be in my presence. He's listening and targeting me on social media. And if this terrorist ever comes in my presence, he and the entity is getting more time in federal prison. That's it. He knows that that wasn't his money, that it wasn't his property. He knows that he has no relationship to me. He knows that I wouldn't give him $1 if he asked me for it. From my money and my property that he stole. He knows all of that. It is professional incompetence because of corruption. It's not incompetence because of some level of ignorance. For which I want to be clear, when you're a federal official, that's not sufficient. It's not enough because people are dying. You're in a position where you're supposed to be protecting the public. You're supposed to be competent enough to have the answer, get the answer, to be the one that can be relied on to protect people that can't protect themselves. And so I have to take that into my own hands because I had to do that. He's going to prison. Understand that. I'm not the one that took any sort of competency test, that maintained any interview. I didn't go through any boot camp to be a part of the feds. I'm prosecuting the feds. And you're that incompetent that I have to pick up and do your job. You're going to prison. While you're listening to me prove that you are incompetent to have the role that you never should have had in the first place. You're going to federal prison. You are going to federal prison. I said it before because that's exactly what's going to happen. The Ontario Police Department is being removed and Jason Fields is going to federal prison. All right, I want to be clear. It's currently 8:52 a.m. This is what the ordinary targeted individual is not equipped to engage in. They're not able to do that. And they're already 6 feet under. The entity even cremating their remains so that you don't never know how they were actually killed. Okay, they're gone somewhere. They disappeared. While the entity is engaging in this gang stalking and surveillance at the Ontario Town Square is an unlawful threat to your life and safety. And they're doing it on a daily basis, on a ceaseless basis. No, the Ontario Police is not remaining. Absolutely not. They're going to be disbanded. They're done with law enforcement, and everyone by science is going to federal prison. That's exactly where you're going, conspiring the murder of an American citizen that you're maliciously targeting and psychologically torturing. And every gang stalking video with helicopter is going to be used against you while you're claiming that you were just engaging in a traffic stop. Well, that stalking by helicopter directly rebuts what your claim is, which is absolutely absurd, by the way. You don't have a defense, and get ready to go to prison, okay? It's currently 8:53 a.m. This is the entity gang stalking at the Ontario Town Square where the fake son is present, as I documented in images at 4 o'clock yesterday at 215 East C Street. It's the same location. The Pauliana is gang stalking at 303 East B Street. The Ontario Fire Department is gang stalking. The Ontario Downtown Luxury Apartments, the Mule Cart at 200 East B Street. This is the perimeter surrounding me. The Herradura de Oro, where I'm documenting the fake son after 6 p.m. over the roof of that venue. I'm looking at the Herradura de Oro right now. It's a store. It's a third-party gang stalking establishment. The entity is engaging in what is the pattern of conduct at the OVITT Family Community Library. The College of Laverne University of Law's gang stalking. The entities surrounding around the perimeter. That's speaking to the Metro 102 apartments. That's speaking to where I'm coming from, ARCO and Chevron, where the entity is keeping a fake son at Sunset. Holt Boulevard and Euclid Avenue, where I'm documenting the fake sun rise and sunset. All of my documentation where the entity was keeping the fake sun over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, both a sunrise and a sunset. The entity is surrounded. Okay, terrorists like Alex Escobar, they're going to walk into federal court and they're going to be found guilty as a matter of science, and they're going to prison, and you're not getting 6 months in prison. Remember, the entity is engaged in gang stalking me and did so to avoid what is exposure for murder, to avoid exposure for exposing who I am, because they wanted to both murder me and also keep concealed my identity. Alex Escobar is going to federal prison. He's doing some time. He's not getting out. If he has any family that loves that terrorist, they're going to be visiting him behind what are steel walls, okay, and panels. That's where they're going to be visiting him, because that's what the entity intended for me before they accomplished murder. And because of that, you're going to prison, and everyone in the world is witnessing your public sentencing. Before it even happens, you're going for a you're going for a prolonged period of time. Not only based on the years that I've been subject to gang stalking, you're going to prison for this. Because of the intent to murder and kidnap by your gang stalking, you're going to prison for that. For gang stalking with the intent to obstruct justice, conceal murders, and my adopted status and wealth that you sought to steal. You're going to prison for that. And you're not getting out in 6 months. You're not getting out in 2 years. It is currently, I want to be clear, 8:56 a.m. This is... All right, sex offenders stalking with light. This is the objective, just like it is under the fake sun all day long. This is a sex offender and a homosexual one. Monitoring with the City of Ontario that is maintaining plane activities up and down Euclid, and stalking now at what is the 531 North Euclid Avenue. You can hear it. monitoring with the demons that are stalking at F Street in Euclid, okay? And this is, again, 9:31 p.m., monitoring in concert with the state that is providing evidence about the criminal purpose in stalking in the path and doing so in furtherance of the entity's conspiracy to commit murder. This is a mentally ill entity that's witnessing its own exposure and still is publicly engaging in what is the conspiracy to gang stalk for murder purposes. They're doing so before the federal government, they're doing so before the public, and this is speaking to the mental illness of the demons that are going to federal prison, that are going to be committed. The airport's being removed, the police department's being disbanded, the fire department's engaged in surveillance. This is the strip down of the city of Ontario, which is a template regarding what every city in the state that is gang stalking is engaging in. This is a failed sacrifice by a demon-possessed population who are severely mentally ill, which is proven through their pattern of conduct. Moreover, they are now engaging in what is an ongoing failed sacrifice in the presence everyone is witnessing, in other words. So you are flying miles away from the airport, hovering over Euclid Avenue, stalking me and doing so. You're doing it while the people of the state are demons stalking me with impossible light, and it's fully on the internet. All right, the entity is engaging in what is a failed sacrifice before the public and is doing so while they are keeping that evidence even under surveillance. So this is getting to the delusional mindset, and it's getting also to, at the same time, it's a threat, and you're going to prosecute. This is why pilots that are engaging in criminal monitoring, like the Ontario International Airport, they're going to produce their identity. They're going to be subject to a prosecution. They are going to federal prison. This is the reality. The entity is engaging in delusional conduct and is still acting in furtherance of what is a failed sacrifice. They're not going to accomplish the purpose. The murder that this government committed is not remaining concealed. Gang stalking to distract from collateral harms that I have suffered from crimes that this entity has committed are not being distracted from. The entity is being prosecuted and exposed for all of that which is relevant to gang stalking me in the first place, including my identity, including what it is that the entity has done to me since I was a child as well. This is relevant to what the entity is doing. So I want to document, in other words, while the entity is stalking by planes, right here at where I'm at, much more north, I'm at F Street in Euclid, and the entity is flying miles north up Euclid, and I don't mean diagonally. So you are flying at a sharp angle from the airport, miles away, even farther from where the Ontario Town Square is, which is already miles away from the airport. And the entity is maintaining what is a straight line, flying west over Euclid Avenue. The entity is engaging in what is flying northwest from the Ontario International Airport at 2500 Airport Drive, and then proceeding west over Euclid Avenue where I am at. You are not flying straight from the airport over Euclid Avenue from the airport. Okay, excuse me, you're not flying from the airport at 2500 Airport Drive, either terminals, to then proceed west over the Euclid Avenue right next to me. This is the entity that's engaging what is flying miles away to then hover where I'm located. And this is what I was documenting this morning. And this is what I documented the last time I was at this intersection. And this is where the entity was maintaining. And that was in June and in August of 2025, and the entity, including the Ontario Police Department, following me as I engaged in sitting at this bus stop, and the entity then proceeded to stalk with planes right here next to me over this bus stop. This is what the Ontario Police Department did as well in helicopter, and I recalled that documentation. I referred to it in the publication, the published evidence on YouTube that the entity was doing, as I referred to it, as I published it this morning, rather. I referenced the documentation where the Ontario International Airport is never having any pilot taking off from the airport and then hovering over the storefronts here. And the entity is also, I want to be clear, the entity is engaging in what is replicating the criminal conduct that it is already caught engaging in, which is more evidence of targeting. When you're engaging in targeting conduct and then you engage in more of that targeting conduct, it's not suggesting that you're not targeting. It's more evidence of you targeting, which is how you are establishing a pattern of conduct. But this is the entity's tactics, which is not a tactic. When you're engaging in what is stalking in a helicopter, and you're doing so by flying in circles over my apartment, and then as I publish that on the internet, you resort to doing it again over my apartment, that's how you establish a pattern of targeting me by stalking in a helicopter at my apartment. This is the entity that's engaging in conduct which is clearly targeted. And not only that, the rest of you in the world and in the country that really need to know what the United States government is doing are paying attention to this, because this is what a government is doing, and it's both asinine and it's also very it's misinformed with regard to prosecution. Okay, a case and evidence that is establishing a pattern. The entities engage in what is already established within a pattern, and not only that, while they are engaging in that pattern, the mental illness is also exhibited while they engage in more and more of it, which you will also recognize within the documentation. As I point out something that the entity does, such as stalking me at 226 North Euclid Avenue along Vine Avenue, what did the demon possessed do? At that same time, flew over my head at 226 North Vine Avenue, where you are also not hovering miles away west from this location where you are flying, you are necessarily flying miles away at a diagonal angle to then proceed west over what is the location wherever I'm on this is Euclid Avenue. You are hovering throughout the city to be hovering over 226 North Vine Avenue, which is what I documented as well, where I'm at the Stater Brothers, the Ontario Village Shopping Center, where no plane is hovering miles away from where they're hovering right now. This is the entity that is clearly stalking, and the entity is, again, the one that's stalking me, and I'm the one that's documenting the entity that's stalking me. And all you're doing is providing more and more evidence that you are stalking. And as you are stalking, the people of the state are stalking. The people of the state that are stopping on the side of the road to aim light in my direction, like the demon-possessed in the engineered environment do, and the engineered environment is proven through what is the maintenance of a fake sun, because the natural environment would never include the sun that is both rising on Euclid Avenue and also setting on Euclid Avenue in the same city at the same strip of street on Euclid Avenue in Ontario. And the entity is also doing that while that fake sun both rising and setting is in alignment to me on Euclid Avenue, because it's not in alignment to 226 North Vine Avenue where they are having the same experience under the sun that I'm documenting. It's not in alignment to what is Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue when I'm at the OVITT Family Community Library capturing that sunrise and that sunset. And why? Because there's only one sun, and the sun is not ubiquitous like the sky. So when I have proof that I'm looking at the sun, that is proof that Starbucks is not in alignment with the sun. They're not looking at it outside of the window, contrary to what I'm documenting when I'm at Starbucks. And when I'm at Starbucks, I'm documenting the entity flying over not 531 North Euclid Avenue, but 507 North Euclid Avenue. In that specific environment, where the people of the state, the iteration of stalking with light includes opening and closing doors and light shooting all over the place, driving outside on the street, and while you are doing so, light shooting all and flying all inside of that place. While they are engaged in what is operating the drive-through window, as they do so, light dancing on the walls of that drive-through window. Those are the demons that are stalking with the city of Ontario. That is necessarily, as it is no rocket scientist is required, and what an investigation will be diligent enough and competent enough to include. Yes, absolutely, details about what a pilot takeoff looks like, and what will be included over at 531 North Euclid Avenue, because it will include no such conduct like I'm documenting now. Not only am I documenting targeting, I'm documenting targeting in a specific environment tailored to me and what I do at the moment that I do it, and I'm also documenting that while you are clearly deviating to be in my presence, you're stalking me. And you're stalking me using planes. You're stalking me using planes when I refer to your previous documented acts of stalking me, which is what I did today when I published the entity stalking by planes, engaging what is U-turns this morning because they didn't want to fly next to me like they are now. But when I referred to what they already committed, that's why they're doing that again now, which is evidence that you're stalking, period. The entities engaging in this while the people of the state, demons, are stalking on the side of the road. And that's exactly what the entity is doing as I'm documenting at what is 9:28 p.m. Alan D. Wapner is the official that's engaged in what is terrorizing me and stalking by planes. And Mike LORENZ is the demon that's terrorizing me and stalking me by helicopter, as those terrorists are acting in furtherance of a state's conspiracy to commit murder through what is to be exposed as state surveillance, first of all, and secondly, a targeting system amongst that surveillance that is underway for the corrupt purposes of a government that's trying to conceal the fact that they've engaged in sex trafficking a minor child that has actually been adopted. And the entity wanted to conceal that, and also murdering people that have been around me and in my family in order to continue targeting me and steal my money and property. That's why Alan D. Wapner and the gang stalking airlines, who are going to be prosecuted for a very specific and detailed and unique stalking pattern. So unique, it's tailored to me, and it could not be anybody else. Okay, that's how detailed the prosecution is, and the entity is going to produce its own identity to me. That's how that's going to work as well. In the same way that the fake sun is telling everybody who the government is stalking and who the people of the state are stalking. It's even telling you their identity. It's telling you that they're the people of the state and that they're not private citizens because they're a distinct status. The people of the state are not private citizens. The people of the state are subject to what is a raid any and everywhere at any moment. at all places, because that's where they're engaging in surveillance. And the entity's engaging in this while I'm engaged in documentation. So I want to document that, and I'm going to recite the license plates of the entity engaging in stalking me as I leave the OVITT Family Community Library. And it includes this homosexual psychopath stalking me with light, molesting me with light, pursuant to the pattern of conduct, in concert with the state that is providing evidence against its own co-defendant. That's how unintelligent the demon-possessed are, because they do not understand how the prosecution of a criminal conspiracy to keep somebody under surveillance in order to murder them and contain that conspiracy, which they lost on all fronts. But that's how you're going to prosecute that criminal pattern of conduct. It's license 7N IA048, 7N TA048. And this is a demon that's engaging in surveillance at the OVITT Family Community Library that, again, the entity telling on itself. Everybody in that library is gang stalking. How do you know? Because the sun is sitting over me as I captured in images at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's in the same position at 4 o'clock in the evening, like I documented yesterday. Those who are paying attention, and the federal government is very much paying attention. Okay? This is what the entity is doing in front of everyone. And they're also going to be prosecuted and committed in front of everyone. Okay? The entities, in the same way that the entity thought that they were going to commit a murder in front of everyone, but everyone is the entity itself that's engaging in public corruption in plain sight, and that it would be maintained as a mystery. It would be maintained as some unsolved case or a suicide, but it was nonetheless going to be in front of everyone, even though you did not know what you were witnessing. That's what the demon-possessed planned, but that's not what's happening. And their mental illness is their own demise. They're mentally ill, and they are so mentally ill, they cannot find out that it would have been better. It would have behooved them to stop targeting in front of everyone a long time ago, like they were warned. They were warned. So now their mental illness is the cause for their own demise. The demons are the ones that cause them to be so obsessed with me. The demons are the ones that cause them to think that there is some objective that they're going to accomplish by still stalking me, even though facts and circumstances that they have access to and knowledge of are telling them the exact opposite, which is getting also to the evidence proving their mental illness, whereby they will be both committed and convicted. This is the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct, and it is the demise of the state of California, because the city of Ontario is proving and showing and works as a template so that the federal government and you, American citizens, will understand how gang stalking, that is a satanic system of targeting amongst surveillance that you are no longer ignorant that is underway in this country. You know how it operates. You know what it looks like. Okay? So I'm going to continue with these license plates. License 7NTA048. This is a female driving a van at the OVITT Family Community Library, where the fake sun is from sunrise until sunset. Everybody inside of that venue is engaged in surveillance, and it's not a matter of a question before your peers. It's a matter of science, and you're going to be prosecuted. It's analogous to a strict liability basis. Okay? The entity's engaging in this with license 38243E2. This is a Latino male at gang stalking me at CHEVRON, doing so as I walk across that property, and they're maintaining activity, stalking me, in other words, by being a patron at that gang stalking venue, where, by the way, the entity's not flying over CHEVRON while I'm sitting at 537 North Euclid Avenue. They're not flying over E and Euclid Avenue. They're not flying over the Ontario Town Square. They're not flying over the 325 West G Street either. They're not flying over G Street. They're flying right here next to me, stalking where I'm located, where demons are stopping on the side of the road to aim light on me, just like you saw this morning, where demons are stopping on the side of the road to maintain light activity. Graffiti protective coatings. Priority Landscape Services, LLC. The City of Ontario. American Medical Response. This is what the entity is doing in concert with the demon-possessed who maintain the engineer light. Who stalks you with light? Who surrounds you with light? And when you pay attention to that light, it's not even naturally occurring light. It's not the product of artificial light, like headlights or a lamp or street lamps. It's engineered light, as you've also been taught. Who does that? The demon-possessed do that. The mentally ill do that. The gang stalker does that. The co-conspirator to murder does that. The state actor does that. Okay? The entity's engaging in this while I'm at CHEVRON, and they are as patrons gang stalking, and that's a prosecution of that business, that's a prosecution of the employees, that's a prosecution of the gang stalkers at that venue. Their surveillance cameras are going to serve to prosecute them, their purchases are going to serve to prosecute them, literally their communication devices. There is a full body of evidence that's going to serve to prosecute this entity that first sought to keep me under surveillance and murder me in secret. In plain view, but in secret. And I'm going to use technology and prosecute each and every last one of them. Okay? The entities engaging in this, and this is again license plate, pulling up, stalking in the path, keeping me under surveillance as a population in the specific environment in concert with the city, which is the state of California, that's giving you evidence about who the people of the state are stalking me with in concert with. Again, license 38243E2. And this is a business. This business is Schindler Elevator. And that's a Latino male operating that white utility vehicle. All right. And license 8B as in boy, C as in Charlie, E as in Edward, 005. And this is a female driving a gray Toyota Camry, engaging in a molestation, stalking with impossible light activity while I'm sitting inside of the Pizza Hut. Engaging in what is harassment upon molestation with impossible light, the psychopath. That is stalking. Doing so with the city of Ontario, and doing so while the entity is stalking by flying over Euclid Avenue like they are now at 9:48 p.m. And none of the published flights arriving and departing have anything to do with what will be heard or hovering over Euclid Avenue at 9:48 p.m. And the entity is engaging in this with, again, predators that are stalking because of the city of Ontario that is losing an airport. And they're also losing a police department and a fire department. But and clearly they don't need it. They're not losing a police department, by the way, or a fire department or an airport. These are terrorists. You don't need a police department that's engaging in surveillance. And since you don't need it, and it's a waste of money, and they're engaged in criminal conduct, which they encourage and incentivize a public population to engage in, you're not keeping that police department. It's literally a waste of money. A criminal expenditure of funds. They're being paid a salary to engage in terrorism. People are being placed in places of employment when they're engaged in terrorism. Yeah, no. All of these aspects of terrorism in Ontario are being removed. And the city of Ontario is not growing in abundance. It's not going to become an attraction for tourists. It's going to be put on the map for being prosecuted for terrorism. People are not going to come anywhere near Ontario, California. That's what's actually happening. And that's what's going to happen. People are going to understand that people in Ontario were stalking and conspiring to murder and sexually violating Erica Spencer. That's what Ontario, California, and people that live in Ontario, people are going to be asking, oh, so you were stalking, so you were there when, Erica Spencer, I heard about her. Were you there? That's how Ontario, California is being put on the map. It's not some tourist attraction. All right. It's not Satan's trap to lure innocent, unsuspecting American citizens that they can murder and gang stalk and set up for crimes and keep under surveillance and cause to disappear when they just come for a summer vacation. That's not what Ontario, California is. That's not what it's going to be. It's going down as a terrorist. And it's losing everything that it engages in terrorism with: the police department, the fire department, the airport, and any and everything else. Okay, so I want to make sure that I document that. This is an entity that's engaging in harassment, molesting me with impossible light activity, and then stating anything to me is harassment. The government that has the goal to have no surveillance, have no warrant or probable cause to keep me under surveillance, is also not supposed to be saying anything to me. You don't have a warrant to even be in my face. What are you speaking for, Satan? What are you speaking for, state? Because they don't have any warrant or probable cause, and it's a prosecution for harassment. That's what the people of the state are. And I document them running their mouths all the time, and they're going to regret it in court. Because it's going to be a very systematic, straightforward, almost like a strict liability basis. What did you say? And this is your status under the law, and this is how you're going to be prosecuted. Because the government doesn't have the role to do that, and it is understood that this conspiracy includes you acting on the part of the government, which you plan to never be exposed while you were plotting to murder someone. Okay? That's why you're gang stalking in the first place, maliciously as the government. Okay? The entities engaging in that and any and everything, every syllable uttered is going to be used against the state that doesn't have a right to be present, doesn't have a right to speak to you while stalking you, which is an unlawful threat to your life and safety and well-being. And it also becomes legally relevant because I had the presence of mind to document diligently for years. This same government is also the one that engages in kidnapping. And you have the audacity to say something to me? You're saying something while you're stalking and I'm documenting you, threatening me, That's the entity that's engaged in what is harassment, okay? So this is stalking on a white pickup truck in the parking lot of Pizza Hut. And it looks as though the entity is acting as 1-466-2763. But this is a blurred license plate. I'm going to keep this image because this Chevy, it's a white male. And he's stating that there's quote-unquote repercussions for taking his picture, which, by the way, what you are extending to the public is that which you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy in. I have to recite the law to these demons that are in full violation of the law. But I just want to be clear, under laws that exist, you are in public. Your license plate is not private information. The color of your vehicle that you're driving outside in front of everyone, including the government, is not private information. And also, you don't have any privacy in the shoes of the state. And I'm prosecuting you, gang stalking me, trying to murder me, having kidnapped me several times already. That's that third party. The entity is engaged in kidnapping. The people of the state engaged in kidnapping me. And you certainly don't have any privacy, sir and ma'am. I hope you understand your status under the law, because clearly you don't. And you keep running your mouth and you're going to prison for it. You keep running your mouth. The entity is engaging in this, and that's an unlawful threat posed by the entity. So while this demon's license plate is blurred, I want to go ahead and document. License plate 8BCE005 is threatening me as an entity, threatening quote-unquote repercussions while I take a picture of public information. And it's also public information when the government's keeping you under surveillance. The government doesn't have any privacy. Okay? And there is no such thing in a surveillance state. The entity's trying to, again, abuse what is an illusion, like their constitutional rights to keep you under surveillance. That's an illusion. That's an illusion. It's going to be shattered in federal court. You don't have any privacy, Satan. You don't have any. And you are fully exposed to a raid. And get ready, because it's at any time, at any place. That's how little privacy you have. There is nowhere for you to hide. The entity's engaging in this, and license 38243E2, sharing in that unlawful threat to my safety. This sex offender, this homosexual predator, license 7NTA048, sharing in that threat, stating, quote, repercussions for taking an image of what is public information, where you shouldn't be lurking in the dark, aiming light like a weirdo in the middle of the night on a woman in the parking lot, because you're stalking and you're a demon and you're a psychopath. You're a serial killer. You're a demon-possessed gang stalker aiming light, okay? That's a serial killer, by the way. The demon-possessed that are gang stalking American citizens, that sacrifice, murder American citizens as a society, that's a serial killer aiming light on me in a parking lot while he's stalking me, speaking as the state. All right, engaging in what is a sex offense, license plate 9KYM765. That's another homosexual predator engaging in what is stalking with the city of Ontario that needs sex offenders to molest me with light while they're stalking in planes and helicopters. That's the ongoing cooperative act of criminal surveillance by demons. All right? They're doing it where they live. They're doing it where they work. They're doing it where they travel. They're doing it where they're engaged in feigning worship of a God that they don't even believe in. Okay? And guess what? You could be raided at that fake church. You could be raided at Starbucks. You could be raided where you live. You could be raided, and they could find out where this demon lives. License plate 6JVK081. P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 9:55 p.m. The entity engaging in a sex offense while they're turning from F Street onto Euclid. Remember, this is surveillance. So the entity is engaging in what is deciding to turn from that street, and that's supposed to be the guys for molesting with impossible light. And the sex offenders don't have any guys for sexual violence. They molest me with light when they're driving straight on Euclid Avenue and I'm inside of a building. They're engaging in what is molesting me when they're across the street, nowhere near where their headlights would be touching head. There's no guys for engaging in sexual violence. And by the way, they are indeed predators that are deciding to take that route in order to touch my breast, touch me with light, as sex offenders / stalkers / demons. So I want to be clear, that's the entity engaging in sexual violence on behalf of the city of Ontario. That is engaging in what is ongoing surveillance, hovering over where no pilot is taking off from the airport at all. None of them. The pilots are stalking me. And because pilots are stalking me, they are going to be what is establishing precedent. I'm going to use them to establish precedent. And gang stalking pilots, they're going to prison. And that will deter what are the acts of terrorism that's underway in this country as well. Because you need to know that they intentionally crash planes into mountains, into buildings, into bodies of water to murder mass amounts of people. Gang stalking pilots are going to federal prison. In the same way that they're engaging in violence, been gang stalking me, they're the same ones. When I say that they're serial killers, that's what I mean. The entity that's engaged in gang stalking, that is demonstrating to you what you need to know. It is the propensity to engage in murder. Yes, yes, that is not a logical leap. They engage in psychological torture. That is the propensity to engage in murder. This is why they're gang stalking in the first place. They even derive pleasure from it. They do it as an entity because the entity is also controlling that narrative, and the entity is engaging in what it's seeking to absorb the ability to identify who's targeting and who's imagining targeting, and so that the entity can also then cause that person to suffer harm, and you're not fully capable. This is how the entity anticipated it to work. It's not working. But the entity is engaging in what is seeking to try to absorb an ability to identify any sort of targeting whatsoever. That's the purpose of gang stalking in the first place. This does not work when you're targeting from the airport. And there are many ways. I've shown all the ways in which you're able to identify an airport and airlines targeting. You're able to identify all that. And not only that, the airport itself is subject to an investigation. And if it needs to include what should be played in federal court, what a takeoff from the airlines, the specific airport, because I'm prosecuting and we're removing the Ontario International Airport. If it needs to be included in a court, that's exactly what's going to happen. What is included in a takeoff from the terminals 2 and 4? And I'm going to tell you right now how that's going to end. There will never be any plane hovering over any of the locations where I'm documenting the Ontario International Airport gang stalking me with demons that are stalking with impossible light activity. None of it. There will never be any planes taking over, hovering over the Lemon Avenue, San Bernardino County Housing Authority, hovering over the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library parking lot, hovering over 325 West G Street, hovering over Pescado Mexican Grill at G Street and Euclid Avenue. Flying along what is the Stater Brothers parking lot. You're not hovering over the Starbucks at 706 West Holt. You're not flying over Euclid Avenue and E. When you are taking off, engaging in what the entity represents it's doing with all these airlines, none of the above is going to be included. And I'm going to let you know how that I'm going to let you know how that demonstration is going to end right now. The Ontario airport is a terrorist and it's a threat to national security, and because the city of Ontario has demonstrated it doesn't even want an airport and doesn't need it, and it's fully committed to criminal conduct, and the business of the airport is just a side piece, you're not even really interested in maintaining you're losing it then. That's fine. You're losing it. It's gone. Just like that. The entity is engaging in what is targeting a federal prosecutor who gave warning after warning after warning. Never mind that you don't like the messenger. Nobody cares whether you believe it or not. You're going to believe it when it's gone. You're going to believe it when you're looking outside of a cell. You're going to believe it when your wife, when your girlfriend, when your baby mama, when your gay lover, when you can't see your dog anymore and you're locked up. You'll believe it then, but it's too late. That'll be too late. The entity is engaged in this conduct, and I want to make sure that it is understood. The entity that's engaged in what is public corruption, you're talking about what is necessary with regard to proving all the ways in which you are targeting as a police department, and the Ontario Police Department have been prosecuted from A to Z. It's already done. The entity is engaged in what is targeting, and it's also relevant with regard to the Ontario. This is what is so unfortunate with regard to being a defendant that's trying to get away with a crime. That is, it's unfortunate for the defendant because when you are engaged in criminal conduct as a defendant and you're proven to be, and the Ontario Police Department is proven, they are proven to be engaged in targeting. The entity that's targeting with that Ontario Police Department is also incriminated by that very damning evidence. That's very probative. It's not looked at in a vacuum. It's not just standing over there. We know that about the Ontario Police Department, but we don't know anything about anybody else. We're stuck on everything else. I'm not sure. We got to, figure this part out. That's not how it goes. That's audible activity, light activity, relevant positioning. Those are demons. That's a coward too. He would be running like a little girl if I got his license plate. So I'm not going to call him on my podcast what that actually is, but that's not a man. And that's also somebody that is trying to compensate for the little girl that he knows that he is stalking me in the middle of the night. This is an entity that is full of cowards. That loud noise is supposed to be some act of aggression, and actually it's an act of fear. Because if you go out of your way to try to call yourself responding, and let alone like an animal through noise, that's an entity that's very fearful. These are demon-possessed people. Very, very demented. But nonetheless, that is a coward running very much like a female. if I were to get that license plate, okay? The entities engage in trying to make some sort of personification of strength through the loud sound of a motorcycle, which is amplified. It's a demon. There's nothing strong about Satan. That's why Satan's coming as a whole group, because Satan is fearful of me, little old me. And he knew better. That's why, because he's still lost. It's not a numbers game. This is not a numbers game. All right? So I'm going to get back to that, because the entity that is already prosecuted as the corrupt police department incriminates, guess who? Everybody, including the little girl riding that motorcycle. Okay? The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct and is doing so, and it's not sitting in a jar by itself. It's not sitting as an anomaly. It's not sitting as just one piece of the case. It's incriminating everything else. Who is the Ontario Police Department always engaging in the pattern of conduct with? My documentation shows, pay attention to the Ontario International Airport. Thousands of videos of the Ontario Police Department stalking me, and who will you see in the airspace? Sounding plane activity. Hovering in the sky space. What's over the top of my head? The fake sun. What's over the top of my head at that same address at the end of the day? The entity keeps that fake sun there, and the Ontario International Airport sharing in that pattern of conduct. Doing so at locations where that investigation has already established, oh yeah, they're targeting. They're targeting. There is no takeoff that would ever occur over there, because it is a matter of training a pilot. Uniform training. What is going to be included in a takeoff, and where the Ontario police are in my video documentation, where you see that airport flying in the background, you see that demon flying the Southwest airline hovering right above. They're lower than the apartment building, and you see a demon-possessed gang-stalking officer like T-Cho in my face talking, hey, Erica, how you doing? And you see that plane in the background, and you see that fake sun over my head. Those are the demons engaging in psychological torture, and that's a strip that those demons are going to prison. They're going to federal prison. And you will see that ongoing documented cooperative act of psychological torture and harassment and terrorism by demons. You'll see that all throughout the documentation. You'll see it all throughout the documentation. There is a documented history of the criminal conspiracy to keep under surveillance, to harass and terrorize and psychologically torment. And is the Ontario International Airport shares with the Ontario Police. Just like when the demons are flying in front of me with helicopter and flying behind me with a commercial plane, where no airport takeoff, no takeoff from the airport, you have no business even being over here. What are you even doing over here taking off? What are you doing U-turns and donuts in the sky? Like, what arrival or departure is, what is that? The entities engaging in that, and that's just common sense scrutiny. Moreover, you're understanding the purpose of the fake sun documentation, because surveillance is underway in the country. So common sense, not a rocket scientist, okay? When you are keeping a fake sun on Euclid Avenue, how many suns are there? All right, I'm assuming everybody knows there's one, so that's why I give silence, let everybody answer. There's only one sun, right? It's an exclusive star, a gaseous ball of fire, constant movement, not idle. Okay, not sitting over one building. Oh no, that's not the sun. That's what these imbeciles are stalking me under, okay? They're already prosecuted. They're not the brightest, okay? And they use little girls riding around on motorcycles that make themselves feel like they're powerful, because they're demons that are stalking me, all right? The entities engaging in that pattern of conduct, while they are documented engaging in this pattern of targeting together, collectively, cooperatively, all right? And I documented it, so it's not forgotten. It's sitting on the record. The demons forget, because they're not bright. They also are forgetting you're under a whole target, the fake sun. You're under it. Everybody's looking at you, stalking me, everybody. The entities engaging in that, and the history of targeting me together as the City of Ontario is also relevant to prosecuting the co-defendants of the Ontario Police Department. Okay, they're not targeting by themselves. Who are they requiring to call them when they're engaged in criminal summoning? Oh, they need the demon-possessed people of the state. They need them. They can't summon themselves to you. They need somebody to be like, oh, I heard gunshots. They need somebody to be like, oh, somebody robbed me. They need someone to be like, help, I need your help. I need you to. They need the people of the state to do that. This is how you're gang stalking at the police department. When you're claiming to be protecting and serving, all right? When you're claiming to be protecting and serving, you have to rely on the criminal cooperative conduct of the people of the state. The same demons that are under the fake sun, the same demons that are walking around with multiple shadows, the same demons that are shooting me with light across the street. The same demons that are walking around oblivious to the hour-long campaign of flying in circles over by helicopter. There's no robbery. There's no heist. There's no shootout. It's just another day of them terrorizing and harassing me, and the demon-possessed people of the state that engage in criminal summoning with that department acting like it's not happening. Okay? Those are the demon-possessed. I want to be clear. Even as they act as it's not happening, they make it more obvious. This is the ironic aspect regarding the demon-possessed people that are gang stalking. And it's supposed to make the target individual look like they're, no, everybody can see. I'm not imagining, nobody, you can take me out of it. If I were to look at a video of a helicopter for an hour flying in circles over somebody, I would not be like, oh, they're imagining something. They're exaggerating. No, it doesn't look like that, Satan. It's not working, and it hasn't been working for a very long time. It's very unpersuasive. And as you are, even as the people of the state act like it's not happening, that right there is how you know that they're gang stalking. It's not even having the affect that it's supposed to have. They totally missed it. They went too far trying to act like, how are you going to act like, okay, this is when the entity is engaging in what is going to such a far extent that now you've overshot. Now you see what their role is supposed to appear as, but it's very unpersuasive. It's very unpersuasive, and it's also unrealistic. It's unnatural. It's very forced. And now you can see a whole population of people that are targeting, even as their obvious effort to disregard what is very, something that would cause anybody to pay attention to. That's the same, maybe that's his homosexual, I think that's his boyfriend. He's gone on his motorcycle now. This is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. Maybe they feel stronger together, okay? Zooming up and down the street with his boyfriend on the back of his motorcycle. Not going anywhere. Understand, this is all about me. That's how pathetic that is. This is all about me. So you're stalking. And you're going out of your way to engage in what is stalking by riding back up the street. You're not picking, it's not about picking somebody up. It's not about going somewhere. Remember, they're doing this under the fake sun and an engineer light. These are people that are engaging in surveilling me. They're obsessed with me. They're all stalking me. And so that's why I'm referring to his boyfriend, okay? And so this third party that's engaging in stalking me and is intimidated and fearful of what it is that I say and the authority with which I say it. And so you're using a motorcycle, an object to respond. You're using noise like an animal, okay? You're using noise when you're stalking me as well. Where is that gangster? I'd like to know. The demons of the Ontario Police Department do the same thing. You're stalking. Okay, when you're caught stalking, you've lost authority right there. Okay, all you're doing is stalking. The entities engaging in that, and I want to be clear, the sound of the noise, that's animalistic behavior. That's like a dog hissing at you, trying to show aggression. Like a cat hissing at you. That's like a dog that's foaming at the mouth, growling at you. That's what the demon possessed do with noise. Those are animals. That's the demon operating in them. Okay, they're monitoring and they're doing so, and it's not even effective when you're stalking me. So you're obsessively following me around like an enamored puppy dog that is obsessed with my vagina. And at the same time, you're trying to show some form of aggression. And that is exactly what it is. The audible activity is occurring in the engineer light. It's surveillance. So that's why you're understanding what is a failed effort at the personification of strength when you're a demon-possessed, gang-stalking animal who uses noise to communicate hostility, aggression, disagreement, like an animal, like a dog. Okay, and he put his boyfriend on the back of his motorcycle while you're pacing. You're stalking me. You're a psychopath. You're going around circles around me. There's nothing strong about that. And there is nothing intimidating about somebody that is stalking me. I'm prosecuting you. Anyway, I'm going to continue with what I was stating. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct. The entity wants attention. The entity is very much fearful of what it is that I state. That's why they do the things that they do. And it's pathetic. And this was supposed to be them sacrificing me. And they have sacrificed themselves, including the illusion that you're strong and cool when you're terrorizing a human being, including the illusion that there's strength in numbers amongst the demon-possessed. No, they're not. They're all weaklings. They're all cockroaches. They're all losers. They don't even like themselves in their lives. That's why they're gang stalking someone together. Who does that? The illusion that they create that it is entertaining or something that you should engage in, this is an illusion, and this is what government officials share in. At that level, this type of loser conduct and mentality, and it's pathetic. The entity has sacrificed itself, and the entity is being humiliated as it should for the losers that they are. And they're literally losers where it counts, in court, okay? It counts in court. While you're out here revving a motorcycle, gang stalking, okay? That's criminal activity. You're gang stalking. While you're crossing paths in an Ontario police vehicle thinking that you're making a civic, you're gang stalking. That department is over with. Have fun, because you're not even going to be having access to anything like that. And the entities engaged in this while they are listening to themselves being prosecuted in real time. They're watching their oncoming demise in horror. They're scared to death, but what do the demon-possessed, egotistical demons do? What do? They continue toward their own death. They walk straight off of that precipice. That's what the dead do. They're dead already, okay? And that's what is the ongoing gang stalking in the face of the evidence in public. They're doing it before the feds and the whole world. There's no secrecy here. You're not accomplishing any sacrifice. You're not accomplishing anything. You're already prosecuted. Do you understand? It's an afterthought in the court. That's what's happening. Guess where the case was prosecuted? The P.O.C. On the P.O.C. This is where the case was prosecuted, on the internet, which is necessary. I'll state that it's actually necessary because of the unprecedented allegations, because of the newness of it, because of the unfamiliar territory. I mean, and you should be able to prove it. If you're going to make those allegations, then you should be able to prove it. And the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct was prosecuted via the pattern of conduct before the world. And the entity is also being humiliated and put down to size. And this is, again, an entity that I don't find to be accurately described as elite. It's not even sophisticated or intelligent. I've said that before. It's not. These are a bunch of idiots. They're under a fake sun. You can look at the light activity. All I did was point out something very obvious to you, okay? It isn't a matter of rocket science. It may be a matter of detail. It may be a matter of paying attention to, perhaps some aspects that you would not ordinarily or naturally pay attention to. And that's by design. That's what Satan relies on. But you're not stupid because of that. You're not stupid because of that, because once you see it, anybody, because a fifth grader can see it. And a fifth grader also knows that the sun doesn't sit beside a building, but none of the demon-possessed do. They go around acting like animals, using motorcycles to communicate their thoughts and ideas. Maybe that's why you're gang stalking now. The lack of intelligence that's there, okay? Behaving and conducting yourself like an animal. Doing things like stalking someone and monitoring somebody's genitalia in a bathroom. And then you go home and live your life like you're not some sick predator. Lying to yourself about your whole identity. You lie every day when you look in the mirror and you hate yourself. That's the reality of those that are gang stalking, and they are the dead. They're the demon-possessed. This is the conduct of the dead, all right? So I just want to state, the entity that's gang stalking with the Ontario Police, that is also going out of its way to cross path. Remember, it is indeed a statement, but guess what the statement is? The statement is what is relevant to what is admitted criminal conduct. Every time you see the police, every time you hear the police are already engaged in what is criminal activity. You're not a police department while you're engaged in gang stalking, and that's already proven. And all I'm doing is putting on my podcast, and guess what that is? That entire department is already done with. The city of Ontario is going to be literally a desert place because they're losing these the corrupt functions of the levels of government that are engaging in terrorism, that engaged in what is targeting me. In other words, it's going to be gone. It's a means of, by the way, restoring money to the people. The entity is using, and the people of the state, they don't care because they're invested in gang stalking in the first place. But ordinarily, taxpayers' dollars are being wasted on criminal conduct. Stuff that you don't even know. I would not be putting my tax dollars in, keeping my neighbor under surveillance. I don't care about what that person is doing. I don't care. And I don't care to have my money spent on that either. And that's not what my money is constitutionally directed toward either. Neither is it constitutionally directed toward that without my having notice of it. I don't even know about that. This is an entity that's engaged in all manner of just corrupt practices. And the exposure, the full throttle exposure of the city of Ontario is the exposure of the state of California. And all these infidels, excuse me, all of these intellectually inferior minions, okay? I'll keep it, all of these minions that are engaging in what is targeting and doing so, and what I've shown to be very highly, I would not have recommended engaging in this at the forefront to anyone. In fact, I even said that when I first started documenting. I said, this is how this is going to end. The entity is you're going to federal prison. I'm going to prosecute you. 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 And the entity is engaging in what is doing exactly what I stated was going to end up in an epic prosecution. And it is something that I've stated. What I'm trying to say is that it's very I highly unrecommended. And because it's so imprudent. And the entity doesn't know that. They weren't prepared because they've never been faced with an intellectual or an intelligent response. You know why? Because they just murder people. They bully people, and unfortunately, people may succumb to fear. But Satan is, this is a whole illusion. If they were really scared of you, why are they shooting light at you? Like, if they were scared of you, why does it take scores and scores and scores of them to target you? If they were really something, if they were really something to be fearful of, rather, why does it take a whole city of them? Why? This is relevant to what is the evil, the wicked people, the wicked, the dead, that derive pleasure out of targeting by numbers, number one. It makes them feel more powerful. These are demons. These are apprehensive demonic spirits that feel strong together with others like them. They reinforce each other's insecurities. They reinforce each other's inferiorities. They make each other feel okay about being a coke addict. They make each other feel okay about being promiscuous whores and spreading around STDs. They make each other feel okay about doing that. Oh, I did that, and so you did that. Oh, okay. No, I didn't think it was that bad. It's not that big of a deal. It's okay. So what? It's all good. This is what they tell each other. This is what the dead do. And the entities engaging in what is making each other feel okay about being criminals, making each other feel okay about being corrupt, making each other feel okay about being dishonest and lacking integrity. Okay? This is the entity, this is the demon-possessed that are engaged in gang stalking. And they're typically targeting somebody that is nothing like them, that would expose every single last one of them if they knew about it. Those are the ones that they're targeting. Those are the ones that they're threatened by. Those are the ones that they're envious of. Okay, the entities engaged in this, and I just want to state that aside from all of that, I'm going to digress from that. The entities engage in what is very highly unrecommended conduct because the P.O.C, as I've exposed to you, it becomes actually very obvious. And the more that the entity engages in conduct such as nobody hears or sees or pays attention or is bothered by the Ontario police or any police department for an hour, flying in circles over in the middle of the park and nobody notices that, flying in circles over a person. Because that's exactly what I would see. I would be like, oh, well, at first I would see in the sky, okay, all right, okay, the helicopter's still, I went into Target, I came out of Target, and they're still flying in circles, and then I would be like, what is it, are they flying over that person? Like, what happened? Are they gonna arrest her? Like, that's a normal reaction. That's a normal reaction. The demon-possessed, they overdid it. And accordingly, it looks entirely forced. That's how you know that they're gang stalking. With their pregnant and unintelligent and unpersuasive methods of acting like they don't see anything. That's how you know that they're gang stalking. And ironically, it has the exact opposite effect that it's supposed to have. Nobody looks like you. Nobody is looking like any target individual is imagining anything when you are stalking so hard. And you know why you're doing this so hard? Because they know that it doesn't bother me. They know that I'm prosecuting them. And their psychological torture, their witchcraft, it doesn't bother me. So you know what ends up happening? The demon-possessed that are inferior to me, inferior, including every single last one of them, are equally inferior individually and collectively inferior to me. And they end up being the ones who are triggered. And then they end up being the ones that overuse their hand. And they end up being the ones that I document stalking me for an hour in helicopter. And I document them doing that to me all over the city. And I document them doing that to me all over the city for years. And that's how you end up a disbanded police department. Okay? The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing it with the people of the state. The people of the state that are stalking in the path, the people of the state that are stalking with light, which is entirely sick and demented behavior. Demons that communicate with noise like they're dogs and cats. Okay? That are infected with rabies at that. So I just want to make sure that that is clear. This is an entity that's engaging in what is targeting, communicating a threat when the government doesn't even have any warrant or probable cause. And I mean, it's down to this. When I'm in front of your house where you pay your rent or your mortgage, the government you don't have a right under the law to engage in surveillance, and I'll prosecute you where you live. That's how outside of the bounds of the law these demons are. That's how vulnerable they are to go in a federal prison right where you lay your head at night. I have all authority to engage in prosecuting. All authority. And that's what you get for engaging in surveilling American citizens with the government that you thought was going to protect you. No, actually, you ended up stripping yourself of all of the constitutional protections that you would have had if you were not engaged in bullying with a corrupt government. Because now you're fully exposed. And everybody that's listening, every single last one of you. If you're living behind a dumpster, if you're living on a hilltop mansion, you are fully exposed. Fully exposed. And I would take heed because exactly, you have no idea. And you have no knowledge about when a raid is going to hit. And I'm going to let you know that they're going to start hitting. Okay? The entities engage in the pattern of conduct, and you are fully exposed to that which you deserve. You terrorize American citizens. You target innocent people. You take their lives. You prey upon children. And you prey upon those that you deem to be weaker than you. And you derive pleasure from it. And now you are going to experience what it feels like to be hunted. Because you don't know what side it's coming from. You don't know when it's going to happen. And you're not even sure what's going to happen. And this is your ability to experience the horror. But this is justice. This is actual law and order. It's law enforcement, contrary to what the Ontario Police Department are engaged in. Criminal activity with you. And everybody, I mean, is on equal footing. I mean, the demons on welfare at Woodside Senior Apartments and the Ontario Police Department, they're on the same level. Equally exposed to a raid, at any time. All right? It is currently 10:22 p.m. This is documentation of the entity stalking me by planes, where I'm at 537 Nantucket Avenue, where a population is so pathetic, they're stalking me while I'm sleeping outside. This is how pathetic they are. All right? This is a league of losers. A league of losers. And those of you in the country that are listening, you don't know Christ Jesus, you think that it's cool, or you think that it's okay, or you think that you should succumb to pressure to serve Satan and engage in what is targeting people that have done nothing to you, just because you don't think that they fit in, or the way that you think that they should fit in with other people, or that you're told that they should be fitting in with you and other people. Get a mind of your own and think for yourself. You're witnessing a lot of people that are going to drop dead. You're witnessing a lot of people that are going to experience a lot of hardship. You're witnessing a lot of people that are going to be locked up in prison, and they're going to be locked up in wards. You know why? Because they don't exercise independent thought. It's a beautiful thing. And because they lack what is the ability to treat other people like a human being. And a lot of this is based on peer pressure. Yes, they need Christ Jesus. These people are dead. They're demon possessed. But this is groupthink conduct. This is pressure to do what everybody else is doing. That's what this is basically coming down to, doing what everybody else is doing. And doing so because everybody else says it's cool, and that's a lie out of the pit of hell. And when everybody repeats the lie out of the pit of hell, then that becomes the truth. That's only amongst the demon possessed. That's only in their club of what is delusional. Everybody in that club is delusional. It's only normal people like me that are looking out like, what are you doing? I'm the only normal person that's looking at this, and now they're able to hear what is an accurate assessment of what is wrong with every single last one of them. Who stalks people in a bathroom? Who does that? Who does that? And who does it with a straight face, like you haven't just been caught and you're still keeping a straight face? You are a freak weirdo. You need Jesus and you need therapy. You have issues. You have issues, and then you live your life, you're lying to yourself. I know you look in the mirror and you hate your reflection. I know you do. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to your mama. You're lying to your kids. You're lying to your boyfriend. When you're monitoring another woman's vagina, you're lying. This is pathetic, every aspect of it. And a lot of it is because of peer pressure. A lot of it is because of the inability to use your own mind and be an individual. And you know why you need to? Because you came into this world by yourself. You are a creation of Christ Jesus. He's whether you believe it or not. You're breathing, your heart is pumping. That's a gift of God. Whether you acknowledge him or not, that's a fact. And you're also going to die, and you're going to stand before him by yourself. While you listen to what other people think and how other people feel, and go the route that everybody encourages you to go down, and it is leading you straight to the pit of hell. And for these demons, it's leading them straight to prison. Straight to prison. The inability to exercise independent thought. Think for yourself. Make decisions that's going to affect your life. Think for yourself. Save your own soul. Don't go to hell because everybody else says it's cool. They're out here acting like animals. They are animals. That's what they have literally disintegrated into. And it's pathetic. It's sad. It's tragic, actually. The entities engaging in this, and there are people that are better than that. Well, they would be better, but they're not. They succumb to it, and you, like everyone else, You just like everyone else, but it doesn't have to be. So like I stated, and a lot of times, this is not a lot of times, what it is those that have the audacity to be different and use exercise. So what is so extraordinary about me? Because I decided to not be a whore? What, because I decided to be upright and my yes is my yes and my no is my no? Because I decided to go to law school and not go to Las Vegas and strip because I have the figure for it? Because I decided to use my mind? Because I decided to ask the Lord beforehand, what field do you want me to go? I'm different because of that. Where is that written that that's somebody that's a loser? That's a winner in my book. Where I'm from, that's a winner. And that's really why they're gang stalking. Because they're nothing like that. They lie, steal, and cheat. Okay? The entities engage in that which they wish that they would have done. They wish that they had the ability to do it. They wish they could redo it all over again. And guess what? Even if they did, they would do the same thing. They would do the same thing. That's why they are facing and engaging in, it's a certain type of loser that would engage in this level of depravity. I just want to be clear on that. What they state is not cool, it's not even that. These are demons, and they lie about reality as they know it to make themselves feel better about the fact that they're headed straight to hell. And they lie about that so that they stay comfortable until they die and wake up in hell. That is a horrible reality, and that's sad. It's sad, and they want everyone else to be in that same state of delusion. Do not do that. Do not. Keep your eyes shut and waste your life to end up in hell. That's not why you were made. And literally a criminal prosecution of a population, of a government body, even my fake friends and family. This is speaking to what is totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. There's something inherently wrong on the inside of you, something that you need to, I won't even make a joke about it, something that you need to look into, that you need to yield to the Lord who loves you. When you are jealous of somebody else's life decisions, I didn't even know that was like something to be like jealous of. Okay, it's something that you're fully capable of doing yourself. You get a life. You were born. You're breathing. You make decisions every day. If you don't like what you've done, make a different decision tomorrow. Like I don't understand that type of mentality, but this is severe criminal conduct. It's committed in furtherance of murder. It's public corruption by the government and a people. However, it's really, when you get down to the core of it, it's based on very, very sophomoric, juvenile, like immature, insecure places in people, a lot of people together at the same time. And Satan is thriving off of that, and he's using it. And there's severe consequences when you don't repent. That's a spirit, by the way, a spirit that works on you. It does work on you, and it can turn you into a monster that's willing to kill somebody, a monster that's willing to torture somebody. And for what? Because somebody doesn't want to be like everybody else. I find everybody else to be a loser. Okay. Now, I don't actually put people down and think I'm better than other people. But if you want to assess actions and life actions and what you're doing, gang stalking, you are absolutely a loser. I find everybody to be a loser. I'm not going to be like that. I don't want to be like that. I would never do that under any circumstances, even if I did not like the decisions that I made in my own life. That's something that I, as my own person, exercising sovereignty over and conversing with the Lord about my life, I would never do that, period. But the entities engaging in conduct, and it's relevant to your ability to do something different. So because you're miserable and because you are in darkness, you want everybody else to be miserable and in darkness with you. And that's what you need to understand. Okay. And that is a spirit, that is Satan, that is using people. And Satan is even using people to keep other people in darkness. Okay. So I'm going to digress from that. But the bottom line is that it's a bunch of people that are pathetic. They're pathetic. And it's unfortunate when you have to call out an elder. Tracy Banks is older than me. She's supposed to be a mother figure. I'm supposed to be learning from her. She should be admonishing me. She should be encouraging me. She should be leading me. And it's never been that way. That's not how it is. All right. And what I'm finding is that there's an unfortunate reality of absence of upright people with actual integrity and the ability to do the right thing. But they're willing to act like that. They're willing to act like they are. but they're not actually that at all. And that is a very specific type of evil, by the way. That suggests that you know what the right thing to do is. You know what it is, what it looks like to be upright and to have integrity and be honest and to be a good person that would never engage in X, Y, or Z. And you are intentionally conducting and outwardly representing yourself like you're like that, and you're not. You are literally a maniac. You're a predator. You enjoy haunting people and terrifying them. That's a certain type of evil. That's what the demon possessed are. It's a whole fake society. They're all fake. Okay? Faker than the BBLs and the lashes and the implants that they put on their bodies. Okay? Boys get implants nowadays too. So that's to both male and females. But I mean faker than that. The whole thing is fake. Imagine I'm walking down the street. The whole crime scene follows me. They're all faking. They're all stalking me. A whole bunch of people. All of those people. All of them. Every building, every person, every vehicle. There's no exception. There is no exception here. I've been documenting long enough to prove that. I'm aware of the fact. I'm aware of the implications. I'm aware of it. When I became aware of it, at first I was alarmed by it, and I tested it, and I tried it, and I prayed about it, and I'm like, are you sure? Is it everybody? Like everybody? Like yes, and it's everybody. It is absolutely everybody, without exception. That is disturbing. That's disturbing with regard to, now I can prosecute that, okay? That's an unlawful threat. That's an impermissible threat. The threat level is inhumane. You're going to prosecute for that. But with regard to just the human part of that, that's disturbing. So many lost people. So many lost people. Like, so many. Like, so many. And this is what Satan requires. This is what Satan is thriving upon. And this is what Satan wants to drag into hell with him. Because Satan knows where he's going. He knows where he's going. And he has a certain amount of time to bring as many as possible. And those, let me be clear, gang stalking is not just an ordinary crime. Okay? You're not stealing money from a bank. Okay? You're not engaged in, even though you could be a demon-possessed person stealing money from a bank. But what I mean, the crime itself, to engage in the crime, you have to have a certain qualification. You are a demon to engage in stalking with light. You are a demon when you are stalking in the path in the specific environment. You are a demon when you are stalking with noise. This is a very specific and unique crime. So all of these people are in darkness, that level of darkness. That is what is disturbing about it. Okay? And at the core of it, there are people that just don't want to have their own personality. They don't want to be a leader. It's too much to be an individual. And a lot of times they're cowards as well, because with that, you may face being challenged by it. And that's unfortunate too, because you're going to face challenges and resistance by just trying to be an individual. Like, I don't want to be a rapist. Like, I don't want to be a murderer like everybody. I don't want to be a drug dealer like everybody in my family. So now I'm going to face hardship and challenges because of that. Like, unfortunately, that is the reality. But I would rather I would rather be on the right side with Christ Jesus. Okay, the Bible says to fear no man. What can man do to me? It's God himself that has the power to throw your soul into hell, your very soul. I don't fear any man. And also, and that's plural, but with regard to me, you're not even a man when you, number one, when you don't know Christ Jesus, but number two, when you're gang stalked, you're not no man. You think you look powerful? I see a little girl. I don't see a man. I do not respect that. And I certainly do not respect people that go around bullying other folks that might not have the fortitude to stand up for themselves. They might not know what to say. They certainly may not know what to do. I don't respect that. I detest it. It makes me sick. If you can't hear it in my voice, it makes me sick. I don't respect that. And that's what you're doing as a population of mentally sick people who are all unhappy with themselves and unhappy in their lives and wanting to target somebody that's minding their own business. And you want to kill that person? That's extreme. That's extreme. Why are you spending millions of dollars using your large commercial planes to stalk me? Why are you going that far? Why are you using the resources of a whole police department and a fire department? Do you know how much money that is? Do you know how much money they spend on these departments and the resources that they have? And they're spending it on criminal activity to stalk and to keep me under surveillance. When they sound their sirens, when they're using their lights, when they put gas in those vehicles and in those aircrafts to follow me around. Why would you do that? That makes no sense. Understand it's a spirit. It is a spirit, and it would have to be a spirit because there's no connection between me and those people. I don't know them, but it's that demonic spirit in them that gives them that sort of passionate desire to follow me around like a puppy dog. I mean, even more aggressive than a puppy dog, but following around everywhere, including into a bathroom. It's not like a puppy dog. It's more like, because that's more sympathetic and compassionate. It's more like a predator with a bloody knife. Like they are obsessively stalking me around very aggressively. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Understand how unhappy people are at a human level, and also understand what justice requires with regard to prosecuting on a legal level. And that is speaking to what the entity is doing by stalking me where I'm at by planes. And this is also relevant to prosecuting a conspiracy where one of the co-defendants incriminates everybody else in case nobody gets that. When I prosecuted the Ontario Police, and I said it in past tense because it's already done. When I prosecuted the Ontario Police, I prosecuted the state of California. When I prosecuted Starbucks, I prosecuted the state of California. What does Starbucks represent? Demons like that get out of their car. Hundreds of people don't get up and have a meeting every morning about, okay, well, we're going to go at this time, and then I'm going to go at this time, and then she's going to be arriving. She typically goes there, so then that's not what they're doing. They're not doing that. And that's also how you know that they're demons, by the way. But Starbucks represents where an American, an ordinary, Cali girl or Cali guy gets up and gets their coffee before they start their day, and then they go about and they go at it, they go and take on the day, but you started off with Starbucks. Go get your coffee, go get your latte, go get your espresso. And that's how you start your wonderful day, and especially in SoCal. Yeah, that's how we do it out here. Yeah. But the entity's engaged in this, and guess what they're doing at Starbucks and at every single Starbucks that I'm at? They're gang stalking. The prosecution of companies like Walmart, companies like Amazon, companies like Starbucks, companies like McDonald's, 7-Eleven, these very popular, well-known brands. That's the prosecution of the state of California. It's speaking to what everyone, if you get not one of them, but if you have that within the pattern of conduct, I have thereby established that there is in fact a pattern of conduct underway throughout the state of California. It's even amongst this large company. This is representative of what the entity is doing everywhere, through every business, throughout the state. And I did that a long time ago, by the way. So I am going to actually digress now, but I just want to state that this is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and your co-defendant very much incriminates you. That's why I'm the prosecutor and they are the defendants, because they don't understand that. They are subject to a prosecution, and they are learning how that's going to work. And they're also still getting a sample, because they're not going to understand that until they're sitting in court, and they will be sitting in court. It's going to happen. It shall come to pass. All right. It is currently 10:39 p.m. and the entity is engaging what is stalking me by commercial planes. And this is relevant to what I've already shown and what the body of evidence. Remember, it's not just this today and this morning and last week and last month. The entity's on the record for years. For years. So in the face of that, that's speaking to what is mental illness on the part of that entity. And that's also relevant as to why they try to project mental illness on the target individuals. That's the whole point of gang stalking. Trying to, oh no, they're crazy, they're paranoid, they're hallucinating, while they are sitting around acting like nobody sees or hears the helicopters over one person for an hour. Those are the ones that are mentally ill. And I got that on video documentation. I have substantial evidence of actual mental illness, and it's going to be a staple with regard to a default prosecution for federal group stalking and monitoring. Your mind state, your mental illness, a matter of criminal conduct that is proving that you are mentally ill as well. It is built into that prosecution. And the government will think twice, the people of the state will think twice before they try to defame somebody else. They're never going to do that again. They will be prosecuted, and it will be a matter of record regarding your mental illness when you are prosecuted for gang stalking. All right? It is currently 10:41 p.m. This is P.O.C. Stalking with the Ontario International Airport, 7FFS 162, stalking on the side of the street, monitoring while the Ontario International Airport is maintaining serial planes hovering over the storefront, adjacent to where I'm located, stalking in the path, never flying over this far when I don't go beyond Starbucks. They're stalking at what is 531 North Euclid Avenue, flying over that building because it's south of where I'm located at 537. Doing so in the engineered light, and the people of the state are sharing in that. Stalking on the side of the road, doing so while the demon crosses path flying a commercial plane. This is the people of the state stalking with the state. And this is the Ontario International Airport that's acting with impunity. Stalking, know that they're being documented stalking, and it's also going to be shut down. This is P.O.C. It's 9:28 p.m. Alright, the entity engaging in what is molestation with the intent to obstruct justice. So this is resorting to sexual violence while they're monitoring my documentation. That's the same entity, the same third party, the same state actor. The City of Ontario engaging in what is sex offense, molesting me with impossible light activity while stalking. This is a sex offender that is stalking you, that's also touching you while monitoring you in furtherance of seeking to murder you. And doing so because you are documenting the fact that they're stalking you. That same third party engaged in that sex offense as the entity is monitoring my documentation. And this is at 537 North Euclid Avenue, 9:30 p.m. P.O.C. And this is also what they're monitoring, what's going on my device, and they're going out of their way, flying over me at F Street, that's where I'm at, flying over my head, again at F Street and Euclid, and doing so in this specific environment. They're not just passing by, they're stalking. Here's more and more shadows arriving. I'm processing the podcast that I just captured, more and more shadows. This is impossible light activity on both sides of my person. By the way, this is the same light activity inside of OVITT Family Community Library. It's not the product of street lamps. It's not irrelevant to the ongoing harassment by the Ontario police that are stalking in the same manner that the Ontario International Airport is stalking, as shall be demonstrated in the prosecution of the state of California. The airport and the police department are both being shut down. And the kidnappers of that Ontario police are going to prison. It's currently 11:06 p.m. This is stalking with that department, okay? Those are the demons that are going to prison. See Hazelwood and Ravanco, they're going to prison. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's stalking as a department, and then they're going to be in federal court for every interaction where they were threatening my life and acting in furtherance of murder. And this is an entity that is, again, mentally ill. The mentally ill have no business in law enforcement, okay? Special needs have no business wearing police uniforms, engaging in what is demonic, engaging in what is criminal activity, and facilitating that people of the state. That's impossible light activity up there. Shadow of trees. The Ontario police are demon-possessed, and they're also criminals engaging in what is very heavily documented surveillance on my communication devices, stalking me, and doing so using helicopter. And furtherance of an entity that is sought to commit murder and criminally defame my character. Oh yeah, they're going to prison. This is P.O.C. It's 11:06 p.m. That's evidence regarding what Ravanco and Hazelwood. Those aren't headlights. That's a demon who is stalking me. While impossible light activity is shooting to the side, those are not your headlights when you're in the second lane over here. And you can see the light activity that's dynamic. The Ontario police are demons, and they're stalking together with the people flying over my head and crossing path on the streets. And these are demons that are providing evidence against themselves. Mike LORENZ is done with law enforcement. So is that entire agency, and a laundry list of demons that are going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It's 11:07 p.m.